in 3.6.
Their emotes are golden.
Hello everybody and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will, I'm a D&D sex icon, I'm the world's greatest role player, and I'm here today with the cast and crew of the World Tree Burns, who are also some of the world's greatest role players as well, hoping perhaps one day to take my title. We have with us, of course, our Dungeon Master, illustrious Dungeon Master, Dan Dillon. Dan, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, and I'm ready to play some D&D. How about yourself? How you doing, man?
I am sick as a dog and feeling awful, but I am here.
Well, that'll just help you channel the drunk for a day and a half that we've got going on with Riodan right now.
That's exactly it, yeah. I'm very method in my role-playing. That's how I got my title. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Is astounding.
Yes, I'm excited to get into today's game. And meet the rest of the cast and crew. We also have Lorelania. Tia, how's it going, my friend?
It's good. I'm just having private secret conversations with Neil. So Neil is our other cast member that you don't see, the man behind the scenes that has to deal with all of our bullshit. So thank you, Neil, for dealing with all of our bullshit. I'm
audio
great.
sorcerer.
Yeah, I'm great. And again, definitely not hungover, because who would drink 2 bottles of wine before having back-to-back role-playing the next day? That would be obscene and negligent. I'm really excited to play Kari. I had such a blast on the last episode. I've just been thinking about it over and over and over in like my head, and I can't wait to get back into it.
Awesome. Let's do it. And of course, we have Tool School with us. School, how's it going, my friend?
I am doing wonderful. I have just eaten wonderful home-cooked Northern Italian food. I have drunk some wine. I am a little bit buzzed, and I am all ready to play some Glass of Shem as we go into what is potentially a very deadly encounter. He is down in the black market. He bought some lovely mushroom stew and wants to buy all the things because everything is available here in the black market. But now we have the real main show about to happen, and so we will see what Glass gets himself into along with the party, because that's what Glass does.
He's a party person.
He is a party person.
Great stuff. And of course, we have Josh with us tonight. Josh, how's it going, my friend?
Well, I genuinely, last episode was probably my favorite episode so far, but finding out that Tool School is buzzed playing Glass and is in a black market, I am beyond, hype cannot cover how good this episode is going to be.
All the cards. I have totally had all the cards, so be afraid.
I am
the energy level is just going to be through the roof.
I cannot explain to you how ready my body is for this. I'm playing someone called Kane. He's a Dampier, and I don't back to Tool School.
Back to Tour School in the studio. We have McLocan, who is having some technical difficulties, but getting back to us soon. We hope he'll be with us. As for myself, I'll be playing Riodan, the Dampier cleric, who has come down with a bit of a hangover after having some of this human swill in several bars and getting into several fights. But he's here today in the black market to see if he can buy or sell someone. And we're gonna get into it today and see what terrible things Riodan gets up to. Before we start today's game, I'll remind you guys, of course, we're sponsored today by Kobold Press. Go over to koboldpress.com, check out your own Midgard books and materials in PDF or print. And of course, our sponsors include fantasygrounds.com, our virtual tabletop of choice. All of the roles and tokens are on Fantasy Grounds. And of course, whalingames.co.uk is a go-to destination for tabletop and board game minis. So check those guys out for up to 20% off the retail value over there. And of course, tabletoploot.com. Every game we give away a set of tabletop loot dice. So at the end of today's session, be ready for that. And we'll be giving away another set of dice. But I will hand over to our illustrious Dungeon Master, Mr. Dan Dillon, to remind us of what happened last week on the show and to take us into tonight's episode.
Right. So when last we left our heroes, we had caught up with what Kari had gotten up to over the last several days since the group had returned from the Margrave Forest. And Kari had taken the correspondence as well as a few other articles that they had found on the body of a slain Shadowfae courier who had come from the Shadow Realm and just sort of mysteriously, inexplicably appeared in the middle of the forest and ran afoul of some of its more territorial denizens. She took essentially the diplomatic satchel that this courier had, and she found her way to Winter's Kiss, which is the official embassy of the courts of the Shadow Fae to the free city of Zobek. And she was invited in once she identified herself and the reason for her visit. Hey, there's McCloakin. And she had a interesting encounter with the ambassador in extraordinary himself, Glennon Thalamandrine. It's a mouthful and a half, but that's Shadow Fae for you. He explained some interesting things about the massive ley line that runs through the forest to Zobek and the Shadow Road that travels along with it, and that it had become unreliable, and in fact for a while had been closed so that no one could travel along the Shadow Road, which is why the courier appeared somewhere in the forest and was trying to bring a message to the embassy. She has been charged by His Excellency to seek out information and any possible source of this disruption of their source of magic, their power, and their ability to travel between worlds and across Midgard. On the Midgard side of things, they have agents working on the Shadow Realm side as well. And to that end, he gifted her, or lent perhaps, his seal, the official seal of the ambassador to Winter's Kiss. And so she can, if need is great, and she decides to play that card, she can whip that out and maybe have some momentary, serious heavy hitter clout with the officials of Zobek. Following that, there was some interesting post-bar crawl shenanigans with the Dampier that I believe left Riodan awake for the entire night. He hasn't slept, so he's going on 2 days active now and has been drunk most of, if not the entire time. So, following that, you guys followed up on a lead that there was a mercenary captain named Vandesian Thrick who was scheduled... a prick, who was scheduled to be in the Cartway's black market in the tunnels below Zobek. And so you guys found your way down there, led by Kane, who knew the way, more or less, from his previous days, dealing with the scum and underbelly of Zobek. And you found yourselves in the black market, a massive vaulted chamber with 4 great entrances that can be sealed by large iron portcullises, I don't know. You tell me. And it was just full of a cosmopolitan swath of bodies. There were humans, dwarves, some gnomes, some strange little small creatures that are reminiscent of dwarves, but have these great big milky white eyes and this almost bluish pale skin, and they're just very, very weird looking. The 2 of them. And they seemed to be very off. You didn't really interact with them very much, but they sort of stood out, at least to Kane. You guys some of you got a bite to eat at the Cobalt Run Cafe down in the black market, and the food was surprisingly good, and no one has died of poison yet, so that's always a plus. And you had some interaction with the Darakul, the ghouls from the Empire of the Ghouls, deep underground, that are represented here. Most heavily around the slave market that is the centerpiece of the black markets of the Cartways. One other important point. You guys made contact with a Darakul broker, just kind of a guy who knows a guy for absolutely everything you might need. His name is Radu Underhill, and he identified that strange crystalline powder you guys found on the robed figure that was assisting the Flame Dragon. That kidnapped Pola Everforge. And he identified this stuff as Requiem, refined Requiem, a drug that is extremely potent, highly addictive, but extremely powerful and valuable. Supposedly, if you were to smoke this powder, the person smoking it could call up the soul of a deceased person known to them and force it to answer questions and give up its secrets. So if you're willing to forego the value of this stuff, and to risk whatever the addiction issues might be from using it, that is an interesting possibility if you guys are looking for information that is otherwise hidden or locked away, particularly behind death. Yes, indeed. Its street value was clocked at about 2,500, and he gave you a lead on an individual who would buy it from you, no questions asked, for probably about 1,000. If you want to get street value for it, you're going to have to find someone who wants to buy it and take more risk. When we left off, you had cased the market itself, and you had found Vandessian Thrick that you were looking for, and he was just this sort of larger, boisterous individual, and he was just kind of talking loudly with some soldier woman, and you'd kind of hovered nearby to see what his deal was and decide how you're going to make your approach. It was about then that a cadre of Darakul opened one of the western gates and brought in a passel of slaves in chains, strange creatures that none of you had ever seen before, and I don't think anyone recognized the term ghost folk. I don't remember if we had any intelligence history checks on that. If we didn't, we can go ahead and do that, but chances are that nobody's heard of them. They're incredibly rare, and particularly in this part of the world. They were hulking individuals, humanoids of great stature, broad of shoulder. Their muscles have muscles, and their skin is this pale, ashen, sort of fish belly, off-white color. They have long, lank hair, thick jaws with protruding yellow tusks, and tiny little bloodshot red eyes sunken deep into their skulls. And that is where we had left off. So that's where we find yourselves. You're sort of hovering nearby where Vandessian Thrick is seated. He's seated not too terribly far from the raised auction stage of the slave pens in the middle of the black market. And there's a drum beat just sort of rolling out from somewhere and echoing around this vaulted chamber as the ghouls bring in these so-called ghost folk in chains.
So, quick question.
Yes.
As far as Glaz goes, because I actually myself got confused. Hearing these people, I mean, did they say ghost folk out loud?
The Darakul Barker, the guy who kind of runs the slave market, was up on the stage, and he said out loud, "I had never thought to see any of the ghost folk in the flesh."
Okay. As far as, because I know they have big tusks as well.
Mm-hmm.
And are these sort of oversized people? Because, like I said, I myself was confused, and I don't know whether it would make sense for Glaz to be confused. Well, he knows that, he was, basically the legend of his tribe back in Fellmire Swamp and around Malian was that this group of Trollkin that he comes from are from some of the denizens of the Ghostlight Forest. I mean, do these look somewhat Trollkin in their nature with their tusk, or is it so completely different he would not think for a moment? Would he make that same mistake, is what I'm kind of trying to get at.
You might think that there's some sort of connection there. I will say that none of the Trollkin that you know from your home look particularly like these, but you also know that Trollkin can kind of vary in their look and carriage. So it's possible that they're from somewhere else in the Ghostlight Forest. And because with that proximity to the Wasted West, there's just all kinds of strange things that can happen. The ley lines are an absolute mess there. Magic becomes unpredictable, and it's hard to tell what sort of strange variants and sometimes outright abominations can be spawned.
Okay. Tell you what, I'm just going to do an insight to try to guide me as a player to where I think he's going to fall on this, if it's something that could potentially fall either way.
Sure.
So on a...
Okay. Yeah. All right. With a 15, you're pretty certain that these are not Trollkin. Certainly not any kind that you've ever encountered before. If they are Trollkin, they're some sort of very distant cousin.
He's not going to feel any sort of connection to.
No. In fact, the way they look around, where they kind of stare out from that lank hair that's just sort of hanging down in front of their faces, and you suspect it might have at one point been in a little bit better order than that, but they've probably not been treated well when they were in the care and the tender ministrations of the Darakul. You can see that there is just waves of malice and hate rolling off of them like heat waves.
Okay, cool. So yeah, in that case, I think Glaz sort of shudders a little bit at these, these creatures, as they just so are seems to be so malevolent, and Glaz is still a bit, he's a little bit naive to true evil in the world. So
Sure.
he's just.
Kari and Riodan, you guys could please make me intelligence religion checks, and I will remind Riodan that you have a level of exhaustion, so your ability checks are made with disadvantage. Yes, please.
Religion.
Oof, natty one for Riodan. All right.
There it is.
Kari. What I would say is sort of the obvious leader of these ghost folk. You can see on the side of its face, it has the remains of something on there. It looks maybe like dried blood or mud or some other kind of dark crusted makeup, kind of primitive looking, but it still barely holds the shape of a symbol. And you... It springs to mind that in your studies, you have run across at least something that looks similar to this symbol before, the symbol of the white goddess. And that gives you pause. If the hunter is feared and sometimes misunderstood, sometimes not, the white goddess is with very good reason shunned and driven out of any place that isn't just awash in blood and savagery and death.
Okay.
You don't know too much about her, but just enough to make you think that, okay, if this guy's sporting that symbol, this is serious bad news.
I want to wash it off him.
Go up and mom thumb him.
Yeah. Narrow my eyes, but stay silent and encounter roleplay. I'm assuming we'll be back very soon, guys. So we'll figure out what goes on with him and his nat one.
The symbol that's sort of just barely still showing up on this creature's pale face. It looks like a sun, but done in something either black or very dark, like dried blood or clay, something like that. So it would be kind of a black sun motif.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not like bored or anything. I just can't stop yawning. I have no idea.
You're okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So, Cloak, what you got going on there, man?
Hi, Neil. I just started my recording. I have a few questions,
Yes.
just because I was having technical difficulties. Why is
Absolutely.
Josh dressed as Geralt? Or Geralt?
Vampire the Masquerade before here, so we had cosplays on, but
What clan are you?
Ventru, because they don't have Setite yet.
Oh, I'm rich and snobby, and I have fortitude. Every Ventru I've ever met. Look at my presents. Cloak.
Asking my brothers.
I think would study these things. He's never seen them before. I'm fairly sure.
You have not, yeah.
And they look like big, umbering white hulks, right?
Yeah, they're still medium-sized, but I'd say they're kind of the upper end of medium. They have a little bit of a forward hunch to their massive, broad shoulders and barrel chests. But if they kind of stand up to their full height, which at least one of them has done when the leader kind of did when he took a lash across the back from one of his Darakul handlers, they probably stand close to 7 feet tall.
Can I roll a history? I want to say history. I don't have my character sheet even open. There we go.
Yeah, you can
see if I've heard any stories or anything like that.
Yes, yeah, you can make an intelligence history check.
11, straight up 11.
No, the term ghost folk doesn't ring any bells for you.
As everyone's doing it, can I do it?
Yeah, totally. Bring it on.
Yeah, like I'm fucking. I feel left out now. Okay.
You're the Witcher. Of course you can make the roll.
Yeah, of course I can.
All I can, every time I look at you, all I can hear is that fucking Witcher 3 where it's like, I'm like, God damn it.
True story. As I'm loading up my character sheet, true story. It came with the audio soundtrack on CD, and for a while I broke my auxiliary in my car, so the only CD I had was the Witcher soundtrack. I could fucking throttle the music. It's so good, but it's so fucking tedious after a while. At 10,
Yeah,
I'm so
10. No, sorry, nothing.
I like your
These
Twitch
are
Prime shirt
apparently
there, buddy.
these are apparently heavily exotic creatures that you just haven't crossed paths with even mention of them in your travels and studies. Those of you of a more studious bent.
So what's Thrick up to? He made this big announcement at the Ghost folks, but
Well, Thrick did not make the announcement. It was the Darakul with the kind of the black fur robe he's wearing over his armor up on the stage. And Thrick kind of when the announcement came out, Thrick kind of rubbed his big hands together and leaned forward and was like, this is what we are here to see. And so he is incredibly interested, and apparently this is the reason he was so keen to be at the black market on this night. And so the drum beat just kind of rolls through the stone vaults of the black market, and the only sound you can hear at this point, as the crowd has kind of gone into this half awed, half scared, cowed, intimidated hush, is the rattling of chains, the occasional snap of a whip, and this guttural beast-like growl or snarl of pain and fury from one of these pale figures as they're brought up toward the auction block.
I would turn to everyone and be like,
You try and buy one.
No.
I want
That's
one.
why.
No.
That's why I left the dog at home.
We're gonna turn around. We're gonna turn around, and Glaz has already got a ghost folk. Like he's already bought one. We're like,
They both have the mushroom cap soup, and they're like,
It's so good though. I'm just like looking at Glass like, this is a great. I'm glad I let you go. I should let you go more often. Like,
it'd be a permanent game buddy that he can like play chess with and like teach him how to play.
ghost folk.
Cloak would look at everyone and be like, if that guy buys the ghost folk, it's going to be even more difficult to do what we need to do.
Well, what is it that we are supposed to be trying to do? I thought, Kane, you were the one who. Why were we looking for this man? And like he's standing right there, isn't he? Or is he far enough away that we can talk about him?
No, you guys can talk. You kind of identified where he was, and you got into earshot of his table. But that's really only because he's loud as hell and just full of himself, and he just projects and booms when he talks. So if you guys don't want to be like hovering over his shoulder, that's fine. I assume Kane stopped you guys a good eyeballing people.
I think we got our own table with mushroom soup going on, but
yeah.
And Glaz is pretty enthralled with the ghost folk, but he's kind of like leaning over and like, so Cloak is worried about him buying them, but why do we care? Is this a bad person? Is he going to use these things against people?
Kane leans in. Well, Kane's probably like staring at him and trying to weigh up sort of like he's like weighing up all the options, looking at all the exits, wondering, he's running 101 different scenarios. But as he does, Whisper turns to look at Glaz and says, "You remember the cartways?"
Well, yes, we are in the cartways.
The men.
Oh, the black shields.
And then, like, its head just does that horrible, like, craning without moving any of its body to fix beady eyes at Thrick and Kane mutters.
Now that you mention the black shields, you can see peeking up from the collar of his shirt the black shield emblem tattoo on the side of his neck.
Meet their leader.
Okay.
Yes, this one. So with these ghost people get those skides and horribleness that they had the other guys had, that would be bad.
I will remind you that the fellow with the sickles and the bandages, he did not have any Black Shield insignia or paraphernalia on him.
Oh, okay.
And actually, neither did. Sorry. No,
The guy who disappeared.
He got away.
didn't see
yeah.
it.
Well, not that you could see.
Right.
But it
Very
was
much
the other,
They
the other
know
people
that they
we
were
killed.
sort of a part of.
So-
They were guards, or they were the hired help. So
Yeah, so they're the hired help.
Right.
So we got to work from that clue to find out who the fuck hired them, essentially.
Can Cloak make a perception to see on who is guarding this weird man?
Sure. Yeah. You can make a wisdom perception check. You could also do an insight if you would like to do that. I imagine perception is probably your better bet.
Yeah, actually, they're both the same. So a 9.
A 9. So it's pretty obvious that that there are two other people at his table who both have shield brands on their neck. So you can tell that they're with him, obviously. And I would say that just kind of keeping an eye out on the area and kind of the ebb and flow of bodies around him, you don't really see anybody else that seems to be with him or minding or keeping an eye out or anything like that. So as far as you can tell, it's just him and the two at his table.
Well, he seems to have his friend, well, two of his friends here, but that's all I can see. I think we're going to have to make a distraction.
well, to what end? How are we going to? I cannot imagine that those are cheap. We can't outbid him. I don't think that attacking him is down here is a good idea. I mean, you wouldn't even let me walk around without holding my hand.
At that point, I would look around to everyone else. Can I do an insight roll to see if people are drunk?
In your group or just around in general?
Just around in general.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, there are some people that are obviously drunk and otherwise inebriated. Difficult to say on what. One person has this kind of. It's not the stagger of a drunk person whose balance is thrown off. It's this weird sway, as if there's music there that you can't hear, and they have this sort of far stare into the distance, and they're just kind of twiddling something in their fingers that you can't really make out what it is. So there's all sorts of inebriation going on here. Now, that said, there's plenty of people that are stone cold sober, hand on weapons, and watching for trouble at every moment.
Well,
Could
we don't have
seem
to.
defective.
I was more thinking of having other people cause a distraction with a little nudge.
All right, so while you guys are talking, the ghost folk are sort of marched up onto the block, and then they're arranged in this sort of circle around the stage, and then they're just kind of left there. And the Darrakul Barker, who's been just kind of running the show in the center there. Now, when I say he's running the show, he seems to be running the slave market. He doesn't seem to, or at least he doesn't project any sort of air of authority over anything else that's happening in the black market. Just that kind of stage and slave pen area. That looks like it's his deal. And he sort of holds up a hand, and the buyers that are interested in the meat market are sort of closing in, and he says, "Come, spend some time. See if you are interested in the merchandise. We will begin the bidding in 1/2 hour." And so basically they're just sort of paraded and put on display for the interested buyers to come and check them out. You'll notice that nobody's getting close to them. Like, nobody's going up and peeling lips back to see what their teeth look like, and no one's going up to like kick the tires and squeeze the biceps. They're keeping out of arm's reach. But there is a great deal of interest. Oh, nice. There's a great deal of interest in these strange creatures, and you can see there are what are probably representatives of wealthy, influential families from Zobek, or even from farther flung areas that are looking into them, and it's pretty easy to tell that these things would be incredibly well sought after for either mercenaries to use in battle, as pit fighters, gladiators, that sort of deal, or even something along the lines of house guard or shock troops.
I don't suppose I'd be able to figure out what a price, having no idea what they are. I guess I wouldn't be able to hazard a guess. But could I try and overhear, like, some people examining them? Like, maybe as I go over, find out what people reckon they'll probably
talk
bid?
about like what their maximum
Sure.
bid might.
So listening to people, you'll hear that it sounds like the minimum bid is going to start at 500 gold. So
We do have the Requiem. We could trade an outfit.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. Why do we?
so you guys are looking to buy yourselves a slave?
No?
Look at the size of that fucker.
Is there any place around, just because we've established that Glaz's rituals are not small, where Glaz could ritually cast a spell?
Sure. Like
Then
how?
and not just make a big. What I want to do, detect magic, so I can get it going, so I can take a look around and see how much magical stuff is around. But I also want to make a big production of me slinging my whole big moose skin over the table and casting a spell.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. How unobtrusive do you want to be? Do you want to just kind of find yourself a table in the back of the cafe that's sort of off against the wall and away from the main action? Or do you want to like go out into one of the tunnels where there's absolutely nobody around?
Well, here's a question. Just knowing that we've got lots of interested buyers and stuff, right? Do I see anyone else casting spells? How big of a deal is does spell casting seem to be
I
in
feel
this
like it would be
area?
pretty common because people want to inspect shit to make sure it's not busted, right?
Why don't you go ahead and make me a perception or a wisdom perception or wisdom insight check, whichever you prefer.
Same. So let's just do. I like insight. Let's stick with insight. Ooh, there we go. 17.
All right, so you've caught a couple of instances of, in particular, remember when you saw that little goblin-like creature swathed in the brown and gray cloth with its kind of knobbly-looking ears sticking out and was haggling with someone over this strange-looking device that you recognized as at least vaguely Onkashelian in origin. Probably some sort of real artifact. So who knows? Maybe some kind of weapon, maybe some kind of powered device, whatever it could do. The prospective buyer did indeed pass his hand over it and whispered, the words were lost to you from your distance, but he very clearly cast a spell of some sort. So no one really batted an eye. So you've seen instances of spell casting. What you haven't seen is anything overtly flashy, and certainly nothing hostile.
Yeah. So, Glaz, I think will sort of look to the group and go, well, be well informed as always to be have a better strategic position. If someone would like to escort me, it seems like there is a darkened table over there in the corner, out of the way, where I could cast detect magic, so we could see perhaps what we are not seeing might be threats around us if we do plan on making any kind of move.
Yes, detect magic would also tell us if he had any protection on him or anything like that. Yeah, I'm all about that. This is a luxury that Kane hasn't had before. The idea of finding out ahead of schedule if his arrow is going to just ping harmlessly off the guy, or if the guy will burst into flames and damage him. Yeah, I'd like.
Okay, so Glaz, you're gonna go grab a
mushroom part of the bowl at this point.
Oh yeah, she's at this point just eating the bowl, eating a mushroom cap.
Yeah.
The bowl curry is actually lightly grilled before it was filled with the stew. So it's not only is it lightly grilled, it has a little char on the outside, which is just delicious. It kind of soaked up all the broth on the inside as well. So you're getting this this weird sort of two-tone, not altogether unpleasant, quite delicious sort of
Savory
second
and
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so meantime, Glaz, you're going to go grab yourself kind of a corner booth back in the cafe, get out of the way of main line of sight and spend some time ritually casting detect magic. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
All right, so if you remember, there was a bubble of lots of people not wanting to get near him, sort of surrounding Radu Underhill, the Darakul fixer.
Yes.
That you guys met. So back by his table, where he's still seated, it seems he is nursing. I believe, Kane, you bought him a drink, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He is currently nursing that drink in between puffs of the whatever he has rolled and smoking in that long cigarette holder, that cigarette stem. And there's a table not too far from him that's kind of in the back, a little shadowed up against the stone wall of the chamber that you can snag.
Yeah, so Glaz, of course, as he goes by, oh, hello again. Yes, I'm going to, do you know if is anyone over there? Do you mind if I'm just going to go over and take a moment? Is that okay with you? Is that Ringo good? Is everything okay? And doing all of his normal Glaz stuff, and then heads over, making, being the most inconspicuous trollkin in the room, and heads over. Are you guys letting him go alone first? Let's just start with that.
Not letting him go.
Well, let me pause the action real quick here. Kane, back when Cloak was checking for bodyguards and such, you mentioned that you were keeping an eye out around Thrick as well. Is there anything in particular you were looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking to see if there's anyone who's loitering around who's probably like one of his guards who...
Oh, so basically the same deal, right?
Yeah, but also at the same time, I want to get the measure of this guy because he immediately strikes me as someone who landed on his feet in this position as opposed to fork, tooth, and nail. So either he's a caster and is going to have some nasty tricks up his sleeve, or I'm expected to believe this guy can fight. And
okay, I will say that you can see that he has a pair of scimitars sheathed at his hips. And actually, let's see. Yeah, that works. Yeah, he has a pair of scimitars sheathed on his hips. And you can give me a wisdom insight check, and we'll see what you can put together.
On a scale of 1 to Dritz, how fucked am I trying to fight this guy? Am I rolling
a Dark Elf reference?
Maybe.
I mean, he made a Dritz reference.
Wow.
The Dark
Look at
Elf
you.
reference that only anyone can ever get because that's the only Dark Elf they know.
Yeah. Nat 20.
All right. Okay, so sizing this guy up, he might sound like a fucking windbag, right? But there are scars on the back of his hands and his forearms that are just peeking out of his sleeves that are kind of almost like carelessly rolled back of this linen shirt that he's wearing, and you can catch just the slight bulk of armor underneath his nice clothes that's hidden under there. And the more you watch, like he's a man who enjoys finer things in life, good food, fine drink, and you can tell that he's put on some weight, probably in recent years. But underneath that, there is a hardened veteran fighter.
So this guy...
You would even hazard a guess, like actual legit military.
So this is more like what I'm seeing right now is like yacht club, golf course, like, yeah, I imagine like he's a hardcore vet. This is more of a hobby of his. He's not really, he made his money through.
You get, let's see, you rolled a 20. You get the feel that this guy did his time in service, either actual military service or serious mercenary work, and took that money and went into business for himself. And so now he's not the sergeant or the captain leading the company. He's the man who owns the damn company and decides who goes where. And so he doesn't necessarily see battle as much these days, but by the way he moves, his reflexes are still sharp, and he must keep his hand in some way. So he sounds like a big, spoiled, just kind of boisterous windbag, but that's wrapped around a core of steel. Okay.
The other question I had, and I imagine you would have told us immediately, but I'm going to kick myself if I don't ask and find out.
Sure.
Has he got all his body parts? because we haven't really run into a clanker yet, and I'm apprehensive with pretty much everyone because I know they're out there and they fucking terrify me.
All right. So as far as you can tell, and as far as he's presenting, he has all of his flesh parts. Nothing is obviously replaced by clockwork or brass.
Okay, right. So I guess at first, sort of like Kane does that kind of like gives him that look over as if to say like, what are you doing? And the more he looks, the more that begrudging respect comes, and he starts to contemplate, and he looks and then he looks over at his traveling companions, and they're eating bowls and pestering community people, and between Glaz, who's going to give them away really, really quickly, Carrie, who has not actually done fantastically well in combat so far, and I don't mean that in a dickish way, I mean legitimately
dice.
Yeah, dice being dice.
Her dice in this campaign have been fucking rough.
Yeah, and a kobold, gnome, sorry, so similar.
Damn.
Yeah,
You didn't just call him a kobold, did you?
Did. Yeah, and Will is actually dead now. So
Yeah.
I'm fucking.
Rip.
I don't like my odds, but yeah, I wait for I'll go with Glaz the second I see Glaz is like making a beeline to do magic shit. I'm like, oh fuck me, sweetly follow Glaz.
All right. So as you are kind of stepping quickly to catch up with Glaz, you can see him yammering at Radu Underhill, who sort of smiles and waves kind of magnanimously with the cigarette stem trailing this little wispy smoke. He waves toward the empty chair and says, "Not at all. Make yourself at home, friend."
Oh fuck's sake.
Oh, thank you so much.
And he kind of inclines his head.
It is very good.
I have not had it recently, but I have had it in the past. They are surprisingly fine cooks here, if one prefers their meat cooked.
And he kind of lifts his glass and then takes a drink.
I was mutated. Good point.
Yes.
So he goes over and in Glaz's normal way, takes off this big moose skin and lays it out over the table, and breaks out a few sort of stones and gems that he sort of uses to arrange out, and begins doing his ritual cast of detect magic for the next 11 minutes.
Yes, indeed. It's not 11 minutes, is it? I think it's 10 minutes and one action.
Oh, right, yeah, because it's not a 1 minute cast. Sorry, it's Identify, which is the extra 1 minute.
You're thinking Identify, yep. Hey, Luke, looked like you were trying to get attention earlier. You got something?
I have a question about these things. Do they look like they anger quickly?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like their default baseline right now is just sort of this simmering fury that can't go anywhere.
Does it? What kind of manacles do they have on them? What kind of restraints?
They have steel manacles on their wrists with a chain kind of run through, linking them all together.
That's it?
I mean, that's it. But they're big, thick steel cuffs and a heavy gauge steel chain. Definitely not something that somebody can just sort of like heave and pop.
But I think, let's say Cloak has the bright idea to, when everyone's distracted with the auction,
You're dead.
to pick up, and like all of a sudden Cloak is like holding this big rock and then looking at the ghost folk, and he's I wonder, and then he's gonna wait for the auction to start. He wants to. So can I roll an insight to see if he throws a rock without being noticed? If he throws a rock at one of these things' face, will they enrage?
Between
I mean, if you
being
threw a
fucked
rock in
and
my
being
face,
fucked,
I didn't
how
really.
fucked are you fucked?
Like
How?
it's pretty obvious that any sort of physical threat to these things will provoke some pretty significant ire in response. The question is, what can they do about it? They're certainly, their spirit is not broken. You can see that, but they are under pretty heavy guard and I mean, their hands are essentially useless. And they can't really get very far because they are all chained together.
So is this going to be? I'm just thinking though, like there's a limit to how much. Like if you, for example, have a load of bulls together, it only takes one to start a stampede, and then it's fucking we're dead.
Right.
Is that
you
cool?
get the feeling that if these things feel like they could get loose or do anything with that, they would start snapping necks and eating faces in a second.
Okay.
But the big limiting factor is they're surrounded by armed guards and chained and have no weapons.
A bunch of stuff in between us.
But in between you and them, yeah, there's a crowd in between you and them.
It's also to remember that there are fucking walkways that have Darkall up on them, and these guys I have identified to you as fucking legionnaires. These
At
guys
least some of them, not all of them.
Yeah,
every
no.
Darkall in here is not an Iron Legionnaire, but yeah,
And-
there is at least a few.
And on top of that, every single gang member puts men up to be part of the guard down here. So you would be pissing off everyone.
Here's the thing. My plan was to roll a stealth and then throw the rock.
Right. So try to subtly chuck a rock and see if you can spark a slave riot.
Yes, while all the people were busy when the auction kicks on, because that's when everyone's going to start like yelling at each other, and then like tensions are going to be high. That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay. Again, you think that that's definitely a thing that could happen. The problem is going to be, can they do anything with that fury once you try to release it? Because they're pretty impotent at the moment. So you think, like imagine a bunch of slaves being frog marched through a city and people start throwing bottles and crap at them. Like they're going to snarl and be real angry and pissed off, but then what can they do,
Yeah.
I mean, and just as a player, to what end? How does that help us?
We can kidnap
to-
the other guy.
So in the meantime,
Frick the killer?
That
Yeah.
is what is going through Cloak's head right now.
Okay.
So the plan
Which
was
would probably be what's going through Cloak's head.
No one has we have not discussed a plan together, so
Well,
Cloak
I
is just
understand.
like,
I'm just as a player. I'm like,
No,
what's
no,
going
no,
on?
no.
all right.
I want to tell you that is wrong, because I straight up told you guys I was just shit-faced drunk when I told you guys and made no sense and yelled at Cloak. So that is not on me. Blame Reardon.
boy.
He's not
Well,
here
that's
to
right.
defend
It's- yeah,
himself.
it's,
Blame Reardon.
Right.
It's
God
Kane's
damn.
brother. I mean, he should be fine, right?
oh, it's his twin brother. I
Okay,
forgot.
so while you have a few minutes, while Glaz is performing his ritual, is there anything specific you guys want to do, or we can just kind of move together and you guys can discuss?
Kara's
once he's
just
got his
kind of
spell?
enjoying herself. She doesn't think of all these dastardly things. She doesn't really care about Thrick that much, because all that's running through her mind is watching Glaz do magic. Glaz fix the roadways. Glaz fix the roadways. You're my only hope at being noticed. And as he's either before or after he begins his moose skin tabletop ritual, she'll reach into her pocket and be like, will these help you with your magic? And I produce the 3 gems that are worth 20 GP, because I see him throwing around stones and stuff, and she's not really familiar with magic. Right now she just wants to do anything that she can to help him. Would these aid in your magic?
Not this particular one, but potentially with some other magic that I have. They are very pretty. You should keep them. But yes, for this, I need my stones that I am familiar with.
All right, so
Then she goes back
we'll
to
go
just
ahead
staring
and, sure. We'll go ahead and move forward, and you complete your ritual, and you can feel the very familiar sort of almost electric shock run kind of like at the back of your eyeballs, and this tingle runs forward, and you look around and kind of blink, and you can see a few magical auras shimmering in the air around some familiar items like Kari's bow. You can almost see this sort of violet ghostly outline standing half behind, half in the same space that she is, and that seems to kind of center on the bow. What are you looking for in particular?
In particular, I'm looking at the other people in here and any magical protections around the Dracul, around Thrick, and this is just as a hunch, not knowing all the things that the perception that we did. My thought, looking at these giant menacing things, I think that Glaz, usually, for a long, long time, he was the biggest guy in the room. And suddenly there are these things that are much bigger and much scarier than him. He is quickly learning that while he was the biggest mage in the room, that doesn't mean a whole lot outside of Bimia. So seeing these, I think he's a little bit concerned. So, I mean, even before McCloakin said all the stuff he was wanting to do, are these manacles in some shape or form enchanted to hold these? What's going on to keep these things in control? Or are the manacles magical? Is it the Dracul have something magical on him, or a whip that's magical? So mainly the Dracul slave driver, Thrick, and these. There's no way he wouldn't be like, what is going on with these big giant ghost folk?
Sure. All right, so immediately around you, some things jump to your attention. One is you detect an aura of magic on Master Underhill at the next table. You can see that he's got this sort of light cape on, this black silk cape, and there is a copper and silver brooch holding it together, and it is shining with an enchanted aura. There are a few others just sort of scattered about in the room. You can see a few of the more well-to-do looking individuals have auras of magic on them, as well as a few things like wares in some of the booths are shining with magic.
Actually, he would probably look over at that artifact too. Is it within eyeshot of it? It might be that it's outside from where he could see a line of sight. Or could he maneuver himself easily to get to see where it is? Or was that way back?
Yeah, you can catch a glimpse of it. It looks like the prospective buyer has not at this point taken it, so it's still there, kind of clutched in this little robe, and almost like a desert nomad looking sort of robe, where there's very little showing, slit for the eyes, that sort of deal. It's still clutched in that figure's hands, and you can see that it is indeed gleaming with magic.
Any specific school, or if you don't have it prepared, don't feel like you got to go digging for it. I'm just
you can take a moment. You can take a moment to kind of focus on it, and it looks like evocation magic. You can see this just sort of thrumming, energetic crackle, almost like it's limbed with this blue lightning that's sort of pulsing in these irregular beats around it.
Cool.
The ghost folk themselves, you see no aura of magic upon them, nor upon the chains. Although Cloak and Glaz, between your scrutiny, you can see that these things are... this isn't just like some manacles that they grabbed off the local prison and slapped on some dudes. These look like they were made, reinforced, and with the specific intention of holding big, nasty stuff. Masterly crafted.
Yep.
Let's see. Anything else?
Thrick or the Dracul slave master.
Thrick and the Darkul slave master.
Ooh, I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah,
actually,
Darkul,
while he was casting, I wanted to take a look around and see if anybody was kind of in cloak style paranoia. See if anybody's been watching us or trailing us or following any of our friends or anything like that. Because Kari's having fun, but she still knows to be vigilant.
All right. Why don't you make me a wisdom perception check, please?
Wisdom perception. Uh-oh. My brain is not working.
Nice.
That's an 18.
Yes, result of an 18. It looks like Glaz drew a little bit of attention when he was casting a spell, but it was, I mean, like you guys kind of checked out first. It's commonplace enough that nobody's going to get their dander up over it. Cloak, why don't you make me a dexterity stealth check, please?
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna see if I see him doing
Let's
this shit.
see. I want to see how subtle he's being in his eye banging of
16.
trouble over there. Okay, so it looks like Cloak is just sort of hanging out nearish the crowd, sort of checking out the slave merchandise, kind of along with the rest of them. He has kind of a curious look on his face. It doesn't look like anyone is paying him any particular mind.
He's fucking weird, anyways. Yeah,
He's
as
just
long
over
as
there
we're good
wondering
and
what they taste like.
yeah, he's probably thinking about asking them to go to the library with him because he's never been.
I wonder if this would be good for a demon sacrifice as he thinks through his head.
Yeah. All right. You can see, as far as other magic, the slaver captain up on the dais. It looks like his armor is magical, and there is if you remember, there was kind of a largish pavilion with a shingle sign out in front with the image of a purse being slit and coins falling out of it. You can see there is a man there, and now that kind of your attention is drawn to him, he's a tiefling. He has horns sweeping up from from his forehead, just out of his hairline, that kind of curl backward, and it looks like they have been capped at the ends in gold. And his skin is this sort of reddish, but kind of with a fleck of dark blue as well, so almost purplish looking skin tone. And he seems to be sort of like kind of running the tables in this gambling establishment, where people are playing all sorts of dice and cards and making all kinds of bets. And you can see several people now are kind of pointing up at the slave auction, and money is changing hands and stuff's being marked on chalkboards. He radiates a little bit of magic in the form of a necklace that he is wearing.
Okay.
Interesting.
Question.
And then
Yes.
Thrick. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thrick. One of Thrick's scimitars is magical.
I want it. And Kane's over by Glaz right now, right?
Yeah, Kane,
Yeah.
Kari, and Glaz are over in the cafe, although Glaz might be getting ready to make some rounds now. It looks like he's finished his spellcasting.
I mentioned
What?
Riodan has wandered off into the crowd, and it looks like he's found his way over to the cafe as well and is drinking again.
I imagine like I'm keeping an eye on the Cloak, but just like to make sure he's still standing there, not actually paying attention.
Just making sure you don't lose sight of him
Yeah,
completely.
yeah, like that's it. Like I'm just constantly like checking, but like the second I'm like, well, he's not dead. Back to
Well, but
the
I imagine
camera.
it's sort of like you're just keeping tabs on everyone, making sure
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
where all of your allies are. Yeah,
I'm
got it.
more Reardon of just like, oh fuck's sake, like Reardon's distracting me. I'm like, oh god, he's still drinking. He's a fucking mess. Why do I
Right.
ever bring him?
So, would I know of the opposing gang to the Black Shields?
Why don't you make me a intelligence history check?
I will do that. This is going to be straight up. 6, 8. Never
Eight.
mind. 8.
No. So I would say that you know that they're not exactly a gang so much as a mercenary company. So they don't really deal in direct criminal enterprise most of the time, at least not as an organization.
They're a PMC.
A little bit, yeah.
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 Does anyone oppose them? Financial.
There's probably rivalries between all the various mercenary factions. There's a few that have kind of a prominent place in Zobek, where they're almost like contracted extensions of the military itself. The Clanking Legion is a big one of those. A couple other ones that have been around for a number of years. But no, honestly, the Black Shields aren't big enough to have hit your notice.
Real quick, just are there
Yeah.
any clankers down here at all? I'm just asking out of curiosity because again, I've decided like if I lose Kane, I will come
wanna
back.
be a clanker?
Yeah. Oh my god, they're so cool. Having read up on like loads of stuff with them.
All right. I would say that you do not see anyone that has that bearing, and you don't notice anyone with obvious mechanical replacement. You do, however, see a handful of Gearforged.
Oh, straight up Gearforged?
Straight up Gearforged. Yeah.
Ooh.
Are they acting as like guards, or are they down here shopping? Like,
I would say that you see two of them. One of them is moving about to some specific vendors in the black market and is inspecting wares. This one is done mostly in a dark stained wood, brass, and silver, with these kind of ruby stained glass eye lenses. Then you've caught sight of another that you've only just barely caught sight of. This one is smaller. You would say that it's worked more in the semblance of a dwarf than a human or other, a human-like humanoid form. And you've just caught kind of a barest glimpse of it, and you could see basically an iron rendition of a beard with what looked like a death mask kind of face, and just these hollow black eyes.
So McGloken with his mask down, but like made entirely of metal. That's so fucking badass.
Well, like imagine the dwarf sort of effigy on a sarcophagus stood up and started walking around.
I love that. Okay, right. Can I?
You saw a very brief glimpse of that one, and then kind of lost it in the crowd.
Yeah, if like I've lost it, I can't for that. But for the other one, now Gearforged are fucking expensive, having read up on them, and Kane actually went under the mountain after staking out a bunch of Gearforged places. So, can I identify if it belongs to? Because I know like a lot of the time, like Gearforged have like sponsors, I believe.
They can, yeah. Let's see. Why don't you? Yeah, sorry. What?
I'm like in my head. I don't know if you are familiar with like what was that? The Deus Ex series, where like people almost sponsored like body parts that can be identified as almost like being owned by that company in that way.
I see.
Yeah.
So you're looking for any sort of obvious markings, insignia, anything identifiable on this individual.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and make me an intelligence investigation? And are you proficient in investigation by any chance?
I am not, unfortunately.
Okay. So just go ahead.
You could ask Laz. He is.
Oh,
that's a 5. No, I'm
is
just
not.
worried.
no, he's across the way. There's crowd kind of moving in between you and he or they.
Did you see like did you see like Kobold Press like stamped up his arm? And I'm like, damn!
Yeah, small but dwarfs across the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, kind of cold on his forehead, and you're like, oh.
Quick question, because I truly don't know. Do Gearforged show up magical under my detect magic, or I mean, I know they've got their soul stone thing, or what, I forget what that's called. The not the soul stone. Anyway, do they show up as magical as magic, or do they pretty much pure technology?
That
They have the alt spark, actually.
Yeah, I would say that they have components within them that are magical, such as the Everwound Springs and the memory gears, and then the I believe it is called a Soul Stone, but the Soul Stone as well. But those are kind of hidden by the body and the plating in a lot of ways. So it's possible that you could detect them, but you might have to be closer and making a little bit more of a conspicuous and intimate investigation to get them.
Gotcha.
There is definitely magic involved in their creation.
Right.
Most of that magic is kind of one and done. The soul being placed into the stone and then the being integrated into and animating the body.
Right.
But there are tiny magical components within them.
Cool.
Because
sort of that normal thing that behind lead and metal, it's harder to detect magic.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Because from what I remember, like a Gearforged body alone costs like 10 grand.
The
Like,
body
they
alone
are
is 10 grand.
So expensive. So just
are,
seeing them,
yes.
that they are. Hence, people like me sometimes get hired to literally hunt them down and strip them for parts. Hey.
They are generally only created by people who are incredibly rich and influential, or if they were someone of such importance during life that they didn't want to allow that soul to pass on, and they wanted to keep them around for some reason or another. You'll see paladins of various temples who have been preserved as deer forged, so they can continue to do their patrons' work. All right. So as you guys are kind of casing the joint and getting the lay of the land. Oh, what you got, Cloak?
When I was looking at people, like, am I able to glean if there is like an opposing auctioneer to Thrick?
Well, he's not an auctioneer, remember. He looks like he's there as a buyer.
I say auctioneer as like an opposing buyer, I should say.
I see. I mean, if he's really interested in picking up a ghost folk, then he's going to have an awful lot of rivals. Because it looks like a lot of people here are interested in a ghost folk warrior.
So what I'm kind of looking for is someone who is an opposed buyer, but also like opposed like competition, whether it be business or like status or something like that, and locate that person to let Cloak talk to them.
Sure. All right. So you spend some time sort of watching who's around, the comings and goings and various interactions, particularly people around or near Thrick. And I'd say that you do catch sight of one who is a Canton dwarf, so a mountain dwarf, and there seems to be no love lost between Thrick and this individual. They exchange words real briefly. You're not close enough to hear what they say, but judging on facial tone and a little bit of the just the voice tone that rises above the din, it sounds like there's some venom between them.
Can I find out that dwarf's name without asking him directly?
Sure. Why don't you make me a charisma persuasion check to kind of work the crowd and see what you can pick up.
Guess who's got advantage on that roll?
That would be the Niemheim gnome.
Yeah. I only have a +1, but got a 20.
Nice.
19 naturally, but
Yeah.
Very good.
Dirty 20.
Very good.
dirty 20.
Right. So that will be good enough to pick
I thought
up.
you critted. I was gonna be like, damn, we're critting shit today in this fucking campaign.
Yeah,
Like,
not too bad, eh?
I just keep throwing my dice around on Fantasy Grounds. I've actually gotten like 420s. I'm just like, no, why do I keep rolling?
Way to waste them.
I can't like the superstition.
Superstition? Oh, you can't roll your dice because you don't want to waste them?
Yeah, the 20
believe
might
Roll
be
the
ranked up
20s out?
more.
All right, so you managed to pick up that this dwarf's name is Trevok Bannerstone.
Okay. So Cloak is going to kind of like, as he's like away from Thrick, he's going to walk up to Trevok and just kind of be like, this looks like it's going to be really good. That guy over there, oh, he's just like, he's ready to get all of these ghost folk. You know what? He said, I don't understand what he meant, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to totally embarrass Trevok. He's a bitch. And then I was like, oh, I guess, fucking, man, are you excited for this?
We're
All
gonna
right,
die.
what is your goal here?
To make him want to purchase all the ghost folk.
Okay. All right. Why don't you make me a charisma deception check, please?
At advantage?
No, just regular.
All right. 15?
Ooh, 15. All right. So the dwarf's kind of bushy, reddish brown brows pinch together a little bit as it furrows, and he looks over his shoulder, then back at you, and he sort of snorts this scoff. That milk drinker. He doesn't have the coin to purchase 2 of these, let alone the whole pack of them. We'll see about that.
Sorry.
Oh, you know what? I believe in you, man. You can do it. My name's Clark. What's your name?
Trevok. You're from Niemheim, aren't you?
Well, how'd you know?
Well, he kind of gestures to the cloak you're wearing with the living stuff on it. He said, I've dealt with a few of your countrymen, a few traders. Fine goods.
Yeah, you know what? Like, and he like pulls out like his sword just a little bit, not like all the way, because he doesn't want to like bring the guard's attention. It's like, here's a little gnome with a knife out. Like, he like shows that a little bit, and he's like, yeah, like this is a pretty fine sword. My dad made it. It was it's a blacksmith.
So he kind of leans forward and looks at it and nods and says, "It's fine work. You should be proud."
I am very proud of it. It's the Niemheim saber, one of the strongest sabers in all the lands.
Well,
yeah, but no.
Are you here for the auction as well, then, Cloak?
You know what? I was just walking by, and then I saw all the commotion, and you know what? It's so interesting. I've never seen an auction before, and it just amazes me of what everyone's gonna do here, and I just want to see how this is gonna fold out. And you know what? Between me and you, that brick guy, fucking asshole.
His face kind of flushes just a little bit, and he goes, "Friend, you've only met him tonight, and you don't know a quarter of it."
Oh. I don't know if I want to know anymore.
You're a wise man. He kind of claps you on the shoulder hard enough to give you a little bit of a oh.
Thank you. I try from time to time. But yeah,
right.
No. And he like holds out his hand. He's like, "Well, good luck to you, sir."
He clasps your hand and shakes it firmly, and he says, "So, he's gonna try and buy the whole pack, you say?"
Yeah, that's what he was laughing with his buddies with, at the table over there.
He kind of narrows his eyes, and you can see his jaw flex as he grits his teeth. He says, "Oh, excuse me, I need to go speak to an associate." And he turns and says, "It was a pleasure to meet you." And he heads toward that tent with the gambling going on.
Okay. And I'm like, and then I just walk off.
Like, oh.
I made a new friend, everyone.
Yeah. I even wrote his name down so we won't forget it.
Oh, damn.
Cool,
All right.
let's
hear it.
Oh, thank you. Right. So you've got Trevok fired up to try and outbid Thrick when it comes time to start bidding on the ghost folk. As things have been going on, as the sort of show and tell part of the evening has progressed, that rolling drum beat sort of kind of trailed off and stopped for a little bit, and it's picked back up again, but now it's not the same. Before it was almost like maybe like a military or even like a dirge, an executioner's march, as you might hear when someone's being brought to the gallows. Now it's a little bit more of it's much more upbeat. It's still just drums, but it has a feel of, it kind of puts a pep in your step, but not in like a happy way. It's almost like imagine war drums. But they're not being blasted, or they're not being pounded out into the chamber. But it is kind of picking up and starting to spread and ring out over the din of voices that are all over the place. And you can see. Let's see, where is everyone at this point? Where are the rest of you? Glaz, you've been kind of making rounds looking for magic.
Yeah, just sort of keeping an eye out. I was looking for magic. I'm sure his eyes keep getting drawn back between the artifact and sort of the ghost folk, ghost folk. If so, Cloak is off doing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's off chatting with a dwarf.
Kane, what are you up to?
I'm torn right now because fucking Cloak is talking to people. I think honestly I'd turn to Carrie and be like, "Watch him." Point to Glaz.
I'm just nodding as I'm already watching him. Both of us are just like, what is this little fucker up to?
Yeah. And I'm gonna go after. I imagine like I'll wait for Cloak because I don't want to go barging into Cloak's conversation. because no one's drawn a knife and tried to stab him or shoot him just yet. But I imagine I only see him at the tail end of this conversation, and any blood left in my body just completely drains. I'm like, oh, fuck me sweetly, okay. And head over towards him to sort of intercept him when he's done with this conversation.
Okay, so you're heading back toward the actual auction block, and Curry and Glaz, you're just kind of making rounds around the black market.
Glaz is wandering closer and closer to that artifact.
Okay.
As he's sort of doing looking at stuff and sort of taking note of where Kari is, and if she keeps not pulling him back, he's going to keep sort of circulating closer and closer and closer to that artifact.
The last time I let him go, he got some pretty damn good mushroom bowls, so Kari's less doing the mom hanging on to him thing and just kind of doing the mom keep an eye on him thing,
right.
But
so you're giving him his reins.
I'm distracted.
Yeah,
I'm trusting him to not. He's pretty big, right?
Oh yeah,
and I'm kind of focused. I'm focused on
and covered with
I'm focused on Cloak right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Glaz is big and imposing, and people kind of scooch out of his way. He's intimidating. He can't really help it. He has a nice enough demeanor, but Trollkin have this just kind of legacy of fear. It's in their blood. They can't really escape it. And
it's
so people just sort of stay out of his way. I can see
just people looking at him like that, and I'm like, if you only knew. Just accept him the way he is.
He's a big sweetie. Yeah.
Cuddle bear.
All right. So you guys are sort of skirting around toward the north side of vendors and booths and stalls, and you're heading back toward that strange little rag wrapped.
Yeah, I'm still. Are we still in visual sight of the Ghost Folk auction from there?
Oh, basically everything is in visual sight of the Ghost Folk.
Okay, cool. So Laz definitely wants to see the Ghost Folk auction go down, but he also heard he has 30 minutes. He took 10 minutes casting, and he's kind of, while he's got his, I believe, 10 minutes of detect magic. Yeah, he kind of wants to see a little bit more what's out there, and certainly this something Ankashelian, which is sort of from his past. He went up and he did his summer internship on an Ankashelian dig site. He's definitely interested in sort of seeing or overhearing more about this. If this if the deal doesn't seem to have gone down or has soured, to sort of see what's up.
Sure. One thing I'll also point out is that all of the torches that are keeping the Cartway's black market pretty well lit, they are all magical.
Yeah, you mentioned that before. So are the ever burning flames.
Yep. And they're actually chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, large iron chandeliers, and each of the candles seems to be a continual flame.
Yep. Okay.
So you guys are making your way around that way. So Cloak and Kane, you guys, so you intercept Cloak as he takes his leave of the dwarf, and you guys are nearish to the auction block stand at this point. And you guys notice as that drum beat starts to roll out through the room, the ghost folk kind of stiffen a little bit, and one of them leans over toward, just slightly leans over toward the bigger one, the one you kind of pegged as the leader that has the kind of the mark on his face, and kind of juts with his chin, and the leader growls to the subordinate next to him, Karush Nach. Kane, you understand it. He says, be ready.
Wait, hold on.
Be ready.
Who said that? One of the
big ghost folk with the mark on his face.
Oh, we are fucked.
Glaz, you can see as you're kind of making your way through, you see an individual who is swathed in magic. They have some sort of spell active on them. It's kind of a grubby-looking human woman, maybe kind of into early middle age, salt and pepper hair. sort of pushes her way past you, and she kind of like catches your eye. And it's strange because you're used to people just politely stepping out of your way in this crowd. You haven't really had to push your way, and you haven't even really had to excuse yourself as you're going. This person seems to meet you gaze for gaze, even though she's much shorter than you. And it's almost like for a second she's daring you to still be in her way when she gets there. And how would you react to this little, school marm sort of looking at you that way?
I don't know.
Sorry, did I say Kane? I meant Glaz.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was thinking it was Kane as well.
No, Glaz.
Oh, at me. Okay.
Yeah, you. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a really silly question. You said school marm. Does she look like any of my teachers from up at Bemia?
She does not, but she has that sort of vibe.
You would have flashbacks to wrapped knuckles and things.
I mean, okay, does she look like them? She's very reminiscent of them. But it's not someone who taught you, but she has that vibe. Yeah.
Oh, right, but I'm saying has that same sort of thing. Oh, he would step out of the way.
Oh yeah,
he would absolutely. He would totally have like a think about Glaz in school. He totally would have like a mini minor crisis of having school teachers not be happy with his work or something, or that he didn't get like an A on a paper, and so he would just be like, oh, excuse me, I bet it's let me, oh yes, right on through
Okay.
type idea.
Right. So as you kind of scurry out of her way, she just sort of and doesn't even say a word, and like eyes you as she passes, and then strips her eyes away, and then starts heading toward the sort of the central crowd.
Anyone who's close by, he would just sort of look at me like, well, she was not very nice at all. I wonder if she had a bad day. She needs to get some.
And she has an aura of magic on her.
Oh, like all around her, or like items?
Yeah, like she is radiating magic. So that would say that she either has an item that creates an effect on her, kind of overall, or has a spell cast on her.
What school?
So you take a moment and focus in on it, and you see the kind of rippling, wavering, color shifting tone that is indicative of an illusion spell.
Ah.
So as you're sort of you take a moment focusing in on her, Kari, you can see that Glaz has a little this little close encounter with this itchy old woman, and he totally just sort of steps back from her and then kind of narrows his eyes and watches her make her way through the crowd. And she treats everybody else very similarly, like she's coming through, and if you're in her way when she gets there, that's your fault, not hers.
One of the many failures of civilization is people becoming too pompous and full of themselves. So she kind of narrows her eyes for a moment at the old lady, not being particularly fond of anyone who's mean to Glaz, but at the same time knows that Glaz is a big boy and he can take care of himself for the most part.
Yep.
If she's in earshot, if Kari's sort of in earshot, as I've sort of stopped and now seen this, and if Kari, it's given time Kari to catch up, he does the first, that was not very nice for her. And then he goes, that woman is not who she really is. She has an illusion cast upon her. Someone that small unless she teaches the maths, I do not think that she should be that mean.
I find that the smallest people are often the meanest. She says, her eyes kind of drifting over to Cloak for just a moment.
Oh.
All right. So as
people would cast an illusion in this place, perhaps some do not want to be known that they are here. There are strange wares and strange people.
There are. As soon as she says strange wares, he looks back over to the artifact.
Right. So Kane, you have just overheard this word passed from one of the ghost folk to the other. What are you doing?
So, what is the thing that would make people, like, especially the Darkul running the auction, the Barker, what's like the equivalent of pulling the fire alarm in this place?
I mean,
throwing a rock at a ghost folk's face.
Yeah.
There isn't any sort of ruckus would draw a lot of attention. A lot of people are on edge.
But what if, for example, I was to if someone were to shout out that it was a raid, that the guards were coming or something like that. I know it's unlikely, but a lot of people would probably.
It's possible you could clear some people out if you wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of people who don't want to be seen down here or caught down here would fucking scarf. But the gangs and stuff would probably stay.
Sure.
How close can I get to the stage?
I mean, if you want to shove your way and throw some elbows, you can probably push right up to it.
Okay, I am going to. I'm gonna. As close as I can, but I don't want to specifically get to the. I don't want to get to try and get onto the stage. I want to find one of the guards around the stage, preferably a Darkle, and get their attention ASAP.
All right. So, do you want a guard that is on the stage or just near it?
On stage would be preferable, but whatever's gonna speed is key here.
Speed is key. The closest one to you is probably that Legionnaire woman that you sort of had an encounter with briefly last session.
Okay, Legionnaire military, well-trained, well-disciplined. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're ruthless and fucking terrifying, but yeah, I will make a beeline for her.
Okay. So as this is going on, you can kind of push your way over to her. You don't have to push through much of the crowd, just kind of the outskirts of it. And you kind of shove your way past the area where Thrick is seated, and he kind of takes note of you as you're going by, but doesn't say or do anything.
Okay,
yeah. Right, so you approach the Legionnaire, and she sort of perks up a little bit as you approach. And she says,
"Had a feeling you'd be back."
How the fuck do I explain this? Fuck. I'm trying to think of the shortest amount of words I can use to actually explain all this.
The ghost folk, they're planning something.
She narrows her eyes a little bit and turns her attention up to the stage, and she says,
"What makes you say that?"
Oh god, I really wish I understood how I knew languages, but I can't fucking figure it out.
Oh god. One of them spoke. The one with the markings told the others to be ready. Lock it down.
All right, so she kind of hefts her halberd and starts toward the stage. At this point, I'm just going to throw out as a kind of a for instance, just sort of a point of interest. Hey, Glaz, you can see an aura of magic on Kane and the owl whisper on his shoulder. At that point, the drum beat picks up into this fevered pitch, bum, dip-a-dum, bum, dip-a-dum, bum, and you can see the ghost folk just energize when that happens. And as soon as that's going on, there's a shimmer nearby, and that old schoolmarm, her form ripples and melts away. And there's this female, pale-skinned, obviously a female ghost folk, and she holds up her hands and bellows these strange words, and immediately this ripple writhes through the chain like it's now a giant steel python, and the manacles all clack open. The leader screams this horrible, blood-curdling bellow, grabs the guard in front of him, and twists his head 270 degrees. And the ghost folk lunge.
And then it throws a rock at one of their faces.
Yes, wink.
The time is now!
All right, so let's please roll some initiative.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Dude, we are capital P fucked.
Yeah, we are.
and
Where's my?
Glaz with his normal
Nat 20.
luck.
Nat fucking 20.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
man, I got a dirty 20. Dirty 20.
Look at that! Finally, we got Kari up front.
Hell, let me see if I can hit something. Don't get too excited.
Fuck hitting anything. I'm gonna try and get everyone out of here. Fuck this.
This is bullshit. All right.
How many did you say there were?
About a half dozen.
5. Wait, half dozen. Oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
They outnumber us. Oh god, and we've got Reardon.
He's
To
quite
be
passed
fair,
out. I mean, he already had a point of exhaustion.
There is legionnaires, and a bunch of people, and then we have war veteran fucking Thrick, and whoever else. Like, people are probably going to kill these things. It is a raid, and we're part of the 25-man group that's going on right now.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I like your enthusiasm. On the contrary,
I'm so sick of your guys' shit.
So Loke, it's more like a pug raid.
Oh
So-
no! Yes, it definitely is a
Nobody
pug,
knows
isn't it?
the fight. Shit.
Nobody knows the fight. Somebody left the difficulty on heroic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody all wants the
All
same
right.
piece of loot.
So
Yeah.
anybody over 20? We had a nat 20 rolled, so that makes Kane
24.
24, right? Nice.
It's a DPS who's trying to tank. It's gonna be bad.
Healers pulling everything. Yeah. Anybody 20 to 15? Kari on a 20?
I'm on a 20. Yes.
All right. Anybody else to 15? No. 15 to 10?
I got a 10.
oh god, Glaz hasn't said anything yet.
All right. Cloak is on 10. 10 to 5? Uh-oh.
Oh
Still
god.
Is there sad music playing in the background?
Glass. where you at, buddy?
Glass
Looks
has
like
a
you're at
4.
Glass is on 4. Womp womp. All right, so the first to react after all of this business goes down is Kane. You can see that in the wake of this Darakul guard's neck snapping, and you can hear this wet crunch even over the sound of the screams and the drums. This body is just toppling forward into the crowd, and this thing just snatches his weapons as the body falls.
On a nat 20, do I react before everyone bolts and panics?
If you would like to, sure.
Yeah, because I just want to.
Well, no, we have a donation in the chat to add a wild magic surge to make it even more interesting. I don't know if Dan, you actually want to make this more interesting for us, the DM prerogative, but on a,
Oh, it's a 1d4 to pick.
so it's a random
so I guess-
person to see.
1d4 to pick. I don't know. rolling a d4 to see who
Oh, yeah,
gets
to
it.
roll.
Assign a number to
Yeah,
us.
see which one of us.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, so I'm just gonna go across on my screen. So it's gonna be, I have a 2, so that's gonna be Kane. Kane, you get yourself a surge.
Fantastic. I'm going first. I'm going to surge immediately.
I haven't had a surge in so long.
So can you
That pulled up.
figure that out? I don't have
Yeah.
access to the things.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just.
I have the list.
4126. 4,126.
Any water elemental touching or touched by target splits in 2. So hopefully
This
no
is
water
not-
elementals.
Haven't
This
we
is
had
not
that
one-
before?
Yeah. We've literally had that
elemental?
exact one before.
In this game,
100%.
Not
Not
this
in
one.
this
Oh,
game,
no.
no.
I don't think it was
Oh,
in
it
this
was in
campaign.
Long March. It was in Long March.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Sarah got that.
Oh, yeah. What's his name? Freaky Kid.
All right, so
Wild
if you
Magic Kid.
touch a water elemental, Kane, you're gonna dupe it. Great, that'll be awesome.
Like an ooze. Just
Right,
like
so go ahead and take your turn.
I am gonna look to Carrie because like Carrie's the one I trust in this situation. Point to the nearest exit to them because I you said there's like 13 ways in and out of the cartways.
There's four main.
I'm way over here.
Yeah. There are four main entrances, exits to the Cartways Black Market. 2 on either of the far walls, east and west. So you guys at this point are probably closest to. Let me get the map out.
So here's the interesting thing.
Like an idiot.
Kari has no fucking idea why we're here because she was traveling, and she has no idea why you guys want this guy. She's just kind of coming along for the ride at this point. So if you tell her to bail, she's just going to be like, bye.
Oh, I absolutely am going to tell you to bail.
Okay.
So you guys are kind of like, you're basically dead center in the black market. So you can go either way that you want to go. You know, you guys came in from the east, from the northeast exit. So,
which way pushes her directly away from the the ghost folk?
The ghost folk? I mean, where she and Glaz are, they're kind of back by, they're about 15 or 20 feet away because they were up by the shop stalls. And you can see that that ghost folk woman that appeared just sort of out of the crowd.
That's right. She's right by us, right?
She's down a little ways from you, about 15 feet away. So yeah, you can just get up to them and start shoving them straight beeline toward the gate you guys came in if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna because I'm not quite with them because I went over to speak to this Legionnaire. So I'm gonna point to Carrie, point to the nearest exit, and just say, "Get out of here!" And I'd like to try and shoot this sorceress who just appeared out of fucking nowhere and has just unleashed all of them. And I'm gonna try and, because I know other ways out, I just want to, if I draw some of them and then run like hell, I'd get out of here elsewhere. But I just want, Kane, Cloak, and Carrie. And please
I was going to say, Kari's not willing, believe it or not, Kari's not willing to leave Cloak in this, so...
Yeah, right, I'm telling you all to get out. Yeah.
Go ahead and fire at the ghost folk. Spellcaster.
Okay. Watch how well this goes.
Yeah.
I don't have any advantage, do I? For
advantage?
She's very, very much ready for a fight at this point.
She's very aware that there are threats happening. Yes.
Yeah. Looks that bitch. However, that is a 24.
That is a real nice one, and that will go ahead and hit.
For 8 damage.
8 damage.
And on that, I'll just start heading towards the rest of the party.
Okie doke. 8 damage, she no likey. So that is going to be Kari. You're next.
Where is Cloak?
Oh boy, where is Cloak?
Where's Cloak?
Who really is Cloak? Let's get philosophical with this.
Why is Cloak?
So Cloak, last check, you were just kind of wandering around, right? You talked to the dwarf a little while ago, but you kind of you took your leave from there.
Yeah, I thought I was back by the vendors because everyone ended up with me back there.
Yeah.
So
so you're not too far from Carrie and Glaz and where all this shit's going down.
I mean, I think we're pretty safe back here.
So
is it my turn? Whose turn is it?
It's Kari's turn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm torn about whether or not I want to go and try and get to you, if I want to try and help people, or if I just want to fucking bail. And I think I'm going to choose fucking bail. I'm going to use my action to dash and get the fuck out of here.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're just gonna break for the gate.
Does it look like the gates are going to close? Because he said get out of here, and I'm trusting him because he knows the area here. So I'm not really sure. I didn't hear any of that, him talking and saying that.
There's no current indication that the gates are going to close. The portcullis are all open. And you can see that some of the guards seem to be reacting better than others. A couple of them, particularly the ones at the gate where you came in, are kind of just staring around dumbfounded and stunned at the moment.
I'll run and start notifying the guards.
All right, well, okay. So you want to head to those guards, or just like the ones on a platform nearby, or what?
Ones that are near the portcullis, and just start getting all the guards that are in the air. Because, if they're far away and they don't notice the commotion for a while, as opposed to if I go run and get the guards, then it'll be dealt with sooner. Kari doesn't want people to die, but at the same time, this isn't her fight as far as she's concerned.
So if you want to move and dash, you could probably close about 2/3 of the distance to the gate that you guys came in from. And it doesn't look like that those guards... It doesn't look like they so much don't know something is going on. It just looks like they suck and aren't reacting well. They're just stunned. So yeah, you can break for them if you like, no problem. All right, that would be the Ghost Folk Chieftain. So at this point, the chain that just sort of popped off of their wrists at this point lashes up like a giant python and strikes out at all the Darakul guards up on the dais, and it begins clamping itself, and the manacles shackle onto their wrists.
Oh, we are.
Glaz, you recognize this as an animate object spell.
Yep.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yep.
Yeah, she animated the shackles to open them.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. And so the guards the guards and the auction cap, the slaver captain, they look like they're thrown into just a pure what the fuck moment, because now a bunch of their wrists are manacled, and you can see that the chain is starting to pull them together.
Oh.
The chieftain is going to leap off of the dais toward the ghost folk spellcaster, and lays into the crowd. And he runs, so he basically has a battle axe and a longsword. He cuts one person through the collarbone halfway into the rib cage, kicks them off his weapon, and then drives the longsword through the throat of an auction buyer nearby. And at that point, the screaming begins. Blood sprays into the air, and panic. You can see it pass as a ripple through the crowd. The mage is going to turn to look at Kane. And she looks at you with a blaze of fury in her eye. She holds out a hand, grabs a chunk of what looks like smoky quartz crystal hanging around her neck that starts to glow with this reddish-orange fire showing between her fingers. She points one hand at you, and it coalesces into a little bead of light that streaks out and explodes right behind you. Boom! I need you to make a dexterity saving throw, please.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
fuck?
First fireball of the campaign.
Oh, man.
Hot-blooded! Check it and see.
Wait, who's making the dex saving throw?
Me.
That would be Kane.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm glad that I listened to... Oh.
I can't remember if we had any nat 20s floating around from that. I feel like we did, but...
I feel like we did as well, but I can't see.
I believe you did. I don't think they're on our overlays.
Yeah.
We can check the VOD.
All right.
I'll start digging through VOD.
It should be at the tail end of the bond.
Yep, if you want to check that real quick, I'm going to total up some damage. All right, so this fireball, Glaz, you've seen these spells in action before, as probably have a handful of others of you. You've never seen them up close, and you've really never seen what they do to people. Those of you who have studied them, this just ripping wave of flame, this dark, sooty red fire, rips out through the Cartway's black market, and you can see just a great swath of people are incinerated. They collapse to the ground with these gurgling screams, and just their bodies tighten in on themselves as they're flash cooked. A bunch of the awnings and tents nearby burst into flames. And how many hit points do you have, by the way, Kane?
Oh, no.
I want to say enough, but I feel like I'd be lying to you, Dan. I have
We have no nat 20s, nat 1s according to the last pod, so good luck,
Well,
everybody!
The last, I think the season kind of wiped them from our overlays, so
Yep.
you'd have to go to two episodes ago. But you take 28
Okay.
points of fire damage.
Wait, how many?
28.
Yeah, I'm down. That
Because
downs me in one.
I believe you failed your save.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. All right, so you can see this ball of fire engulfs Kane and everyone around him, and he collapses.
Oh,
The ghost folk woman kind of rips the arrow out of her shoulder, licks her own blood off of it, and screams something toward the ceiling. Cloak, your turn.
I look at Glaz and I go, "Get the fuck out of here!" And then I run towards Kane. Am I able to make it to Kane?
Yeah, you're actually not terribly far from him. Thankfully, you were closer to him, and the fireball exploded behind him to catch not only him, but a great pack of people as well.
I am slapping him in the face, and as I slap him in the face, I'm curing wounds on him.
All right, go ahead and roll your wounds.
Yeah. Let's do it. So it's gonna be 1d8 plus 1. 7 hit points. And I'm like,
Okay.
fool.
For 20s, you got Squall has 2, Josh has 2 20s and a 1. Dan, you've got 2 20s and 2 1s, and Cloak, you've got a 20 and a 1. And I don't have anything, I guess, because I was not on the last episode, so I'd have to scroll back even further.
There you go. All right, so you have 7 hit points. That is Cloak, the ghost folk.
Oh,
so
Lord.
the ghost folk do the same, basically the same as the chieftain did. They grab weapons from the now shackled guards and basically just ignore them. And they jump into the crowd. Several of them land in the massive smoking hole of humanity left by the fireball, and they run towards, basically towards Cloak and Kane. 2 of them run towards them. So Cloak, you are attacked. I don't think that's going to hit you. That is going to be a mere 13. So I believe you kind of spin towards him, and as you do, the edge of your cloak whips out, wraps around the ghost folk's wrist, and throws him off balance. The other one is going to strike at you as well, I suppose.
Uh-oh.
That's going to be a 17.
That hits.
All right. Unfortunately, they don't have their...
Right.
Oof! So that's going to be 11 points of slashing damage from a battle axe.
All right.
The rest of the ghost folk, they sort of follow their chieftain's lead and jump into the crowd and just start killing. Glaz, your turn.
So there were 6 of. There's the mage and 6, right?
There's a mage, a chieftain, and then 5 others.
Okay, mage, a chieftain, then 5.
Yep.
Glaz sees this unfolding before him and goes to himself, "This is bad, this is bad, this is very bad, very bad." He goes, "I hope you guys are... I've seen you do amazing things before, but please do amazing things again. I'm sorry." And begins to hum to himself in the same sound as the ley line that he is bound to, the same one that's back at the Everforge.
Right.
And it gets louder and louder and louder, and a red disruptive glow begins to emanate in order to capture, if I can possibly not capture Kane and Cloak, I want to do that, but I know they're right immediately about it. I want to get all the ghost folks and the mage and the chieftain. If I have to get them, I'm like, okay, I've seen them be very dexterous.
Okay.
And
what are you
he
casting?
puts his hands down and basically calls up the ley line through the ground and casts ley disruption to capture as many of these people as possible. All
right.
Because to try to knock all of the people prone, they all need to make a dexterity saving throw at disadvantage because I'm attached to a ley line.
Because you're bound to a ley line, right? And you're a geomancer. What is the radius of the spell? What's the radius of the spell?
It is 15-foot radius, so it'd be 30 feet diameter.
All right. So you can get a fair few of them, actually. And you and Kari were back up against the vendor stalls, so you can actually drop it to where you're out of it. So you're going to be able to hit a giant chunk of the crowd that's not dead and being slaughtered around the northern part of the slave block. You can definitely catch both of the ghost folk on Cloak and Kane. You can catch the chieftain, you can catch the mage, and you can catch one other of the ghost folk. So that's a hell of a lot of them, actually.
My range is 50 feet, and then the radius is 30 feet. I'm sorry.
So basically, you're gonna center it kind of back, like kind of in the middle of the back toward the corner of the slave block, essentially.
Exactly.
And then it's going to reach out.
If I'd have been a higher initiative, it'd been to try to catch them all before they could get off the slave block. But
this is with disadvantage.
They're all at disadvantage, which helps. One down.
Fail. Oh, impressively fail. Super fail.
4.
Fail as hell.
Come on. 5.
And bringing up the rear, fail bot. All right, so Laz begins this humming, and all of you, as this glow sort of pulses out through his hands, you can hear this high-pitched sort of energetic music that almost overtones his humming, and he rams his hands down onto the ground, and as he does so, the ground bucks upward in this shockwave. The stone actually warps and blasts outward from him. And rips through the crowd, knocking just tons of people off of their feet, including all of the ghost folk who are caught in this wave. And it stops just in front of Cloak and Kane. And you can see the ground in its wake, and even up onto the stage dais as well, is like the ground is warping and twisting with this strange red light running through it, kind of throwing people off their feet. So yeah, that's a ley disruption well placed. So they're all knocked prone.
And it looks. I'm looking right at the spell, unless it's called out somewhere to say it's not concentration, so it's there and there for a full minute.
It would say it in the duration. It would be
it does
1 minute.
not say it in the duration. It is a full. It's just a 1 minute standard. And with that idea, thinking that it's at least given us a block, I'm gonna grab, because Kari's still right next to me. Yeah, or did she run?
No, she bolted.
No,
she's 60
failed.
feet.
So
she's 60 feet down the hall.
I actually take Cloak's advice and Riordan's advice and see her running, and I drop it and run. And like I said, he sort of does the, I'm sorry, I know you guys are smart, you can get out here for him too. And he's out. He's going to follow directions for once.
All right.
Yeah. You just gotta know when to pick and choose your fights.
As this is happening, Glaz, one moment. Something you notice, the figure that had that Vril artifact that was basically right behind you, he's kind of clutching it to his chest, and you can see it looks kind of like a hand crossbow, but with no limbs. And he sort of is looking around, and he waves his hand up, touches it to his forehead, whispers something, shimmers, and vanishes. And as he does so, he kind of jostles some things that were nearby, and a leather scroll case pops loose, falls, hits the ground, and rolls right up to your boot, and taps it.
Glaz does a guilty look around and totally snags it.
I'm going to say, just to sweeten the deal, since ley disruption isn't concentration, your detect magic is still running, and you can see an aura of magic leaking out from inside the scroll case.
Yeah, he's totally going to do. I mean, the guiltiest looking kid with his hand in the cookie jar, takes the cookie, and so he looks at it and goes, look at you, aren't you just and grabs it and then snags it.
Snags it and hauls ass down the right. So you're gonna bolt 30 feet down the lane there. All right.
Here's Win and Zolbeck, having seen the other guy steal something, it's Win and Zolbeck, and grabs it.
All right. All right. So, Kane, your turn.
Kane sort of like comes to, charred, uncomfortable, like the worst sunburn.
Yeah, you're in agony.
Yeah, the worst sunburn you can imagine. Like skin feels crackly and like, you know how chicken skin goes when you roast it for too long, that horrible crunch.
Oh, yes.
And he pulls himself up feeling like everything moved in the worst possible way. Looks at old Cloak, blinks for a moment, and says, "Thanks. Run." I'm gonna get overtaken, I imagine, by Cloak, but I will use my action to dash so I can just get an average fucking move because I'm coming up from prone.
So you have to burn half your speed to stand up, so then you can move the other half and dash to get a good 45 feet.
Yes. No, I honestly, I think dash, when you stand from prone, it halves even your dash. It super fucking sucks.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true.
So
it takes half your speed for the turn. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm only 30 feet, but I fucking run as fast as I can.
All right, as you do, that ghost folk woman that you shot, her eyes are just locked on you as you run past.
Yep.
Did she fall?
Oh, yeah. And she's like being jostled and thrown by the bizarre disruptions happening to the ground around her. And in fact, you guys have to you can skirt up around the very edge of that, just barely. So you run 30 feet. Got it. Kari, your turn.
Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted. I am going to still be running.
Okay.
I had actually that's why I was asking myself what my alignment was earlier, because I was like, would Kari take advantage of stealing something amidst this chaos? But Kari doesn't really have a use for material items or money, so that's a no. So she's just going to keep running, informing guards, and bailing.
Okay, so one move will get you to the gate and to the guards there. It looks like they're starting to get their wits about them.
Move faster.
So would you like to take an action, or
no, I'm just completely getting out of here. I'm going to go through the portcullis if necessary, and I'll go and get city guards and other people that are probably more capable of dealing with this. Kari lost a fist fight against Kane, so she's not really willing to go jump into fireballs and giant creatures and the like. So,
all right. So you can dash out into the corridor, to the tunnel if you like.
Yes, please.
All right. The chief. He is going to stand. And he's down to half speed, and he's moving through difficult terrain, if I remember the spell correctly.
That is correct.
Fuck.
It's difficult terrain, and that's it. So I don't know exactly how this works. It's any creature in the area when it appears that starts its turn in the area or enters the area for the first time must succeed dexterity or be prone. So I think if he's starting his turn already prone, does he have to do a dexterity save just to not stay prone?
No, he's already prone.
Okay.
Let's see. So he throws himself to his feet, and he's going to move and dash as a bonus action toward Glaz.
So it's okay. Yeah.
And you ran, and you were. Yeah. So it's difficult terrain. He's already down to 15 feet of movement. Yeah, 15 feet of movement. So he can move and dash to get 15. So that is not going to put him in range of Glaz. So he's going to dash as his actual action, and that'll put him outside of the difficult terrain.
Yep.
And he is about 10 feet behind you, and he is just pounding after you. The mage.
That's
She's
terrifying.
going to struggle to her feet, and she can see the guards up on top of the platforms are starting to get organized and are leveling crossbows at the ghost folk. And so she looks up at the two platforms that are nearby one of those great central columns that hold up the room, and she she throws her hand up toward them and closes her fist, and there's a sudden cracking sound as ice begins to form at the ceiling and drive down in a great swath, covering both of these guard posts and another great group of the crowd there near the slave auction, and then just kind of filling the black market. These massive grapefruit-sized chunks of ice begin raining down, and the Darakul kind of raise their shields up to try and ward off the ice storm. But she doesn't really get very far, unfortunately, so she's still mired in the disruption. Right. Cloak.
Okay, so how far is Glaz in front of me?
Glaz is a good way in front of you, because he was a decent bit away to start with. You ran over to Kane. So he's 50 feet away from you.
And so that guy is 40 feet away. No, wait, is it? No, he's 10 feet away from you.
Behind me would be 35 feet away from you.
Okay, yeah.
All right, math. Engineer, sorry.
I'm tired.
It's okay. So if you
Because
want to get in range of him, you
I
can.
thought he was 10 feet. Well, I can get in range of him. The problem is what are the other ghost folk doing? So I get to lay the land a little bit.
Yeah, so the other ghost folk currently are being tumbled and rumbled by whatever the hell Glaz just did to the floor. So they are basically struggling to get back up to their feet. And if you had to guess, they were probably going to chase you and try to kill you with axes.
I thought there was a lot more people in between us and the fucking. Well, there's those other two. So I'm gonna.
Well, so keep in mind there were a bunch of them were killed by a fireball.
Okay. I am going to dash, so I'll go 50 feet. So probably catch up
I will.
to Glaz.
I will remind you real quick. You have ghost folk next to you. They're prone, so if you dash away from them, they will get opportunity attacks. They'll have disadvantage, but they will get to swing at you.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's go. Because there's nothing else. There's nothing else I could do.
You can
I have to
disengage.
run.
Well, you can disengage.
that a
and
thing?
run.
Yeah, you can take the
disengage
disengage
and-
action.
But then you can't dash.
Then you can't dash. That's your action, and you won't provoke opportunity attacks.
They hit
This is a
hard.
hard decision. They do hit hard, I know, because I'm almost at half hit points. And they hit me once. And they have to roll a 12 or better to hit me, which means they have a +5 to hit. Statistically, they don't have the best chance, but how Dan rolls, they have the greatest chance.
All right, look at. I want you to look at the red, the die rolls on the last
That's a
swap.
disadvantage. If you remember what the good dice were on those, most of those were like 15 or above.
Fair enough.
So I don't trust you, you magical wizard. You.
Fair.
But you know what? It wouldn't be D&D if I didn't risk it for my friends in Glaz. So let's fucking dash.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if they-
So
There we
one of
go.
them swipes
The
at
red.
you, and he's just sort of tumbled by the roiling chaotic waves in the stone floor, and his axe goes wide. Oh, this one is going to clip you. This one is going to clip. Ooh, it's going to clip you good for 9 points of slashing damage.
Okay.
So he kind of he rolls with it and gets flung into the air, and as he goes by, he hacks into the side of you. And I think that is that good enough to bloody you or no?
Oh, I have 5 hit points left.
Oh my, yes. All right, so you
But-
he cuts deep into your side there. Yeah.
Yeah, as he does that, like, as I'm dashing, can I, like, put my hand on a healing potion in my, my
you
pouch?
you can draw one as your once per turn interaction.
Okay. I'm going to draw one and then dash 50 feet. This also gives Kane an opportunity to run away, as they can't take another attack of opportunity now, due to being.
I already ran.
Did
I
you
already
already
ran.
run?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he's
already
already
ran.
He ran.
Oh,
Yeah, he's gone.
okay.
I like rolled up and was just like fucking run, and then I ran, but not very fast. You've overtaken me easy. You're 20 feet ahead of me.
Followed by like blood flying away from me. So,
Oh yes.
um,
And you can see that that Cloak's actual cloak is sort of balled up and pressing into his side, trying to staunch the flow of blood.
Wonderful.
So that was Cloak. The Ghost Folk. So they're gonna struggle to their feet, and then they're gonna move. 10, 15. Then they're gonna dash. 5, 10, 15, and then they're gonna dash again to still not catch up with you. Damn it!
With who?
So they're closing, but Cloak.
Okay. Did I catch up with me because I'm 20 feet behind him? Or they go
Yes, but it takes their action to get there, so
okay.
they don't have an attack
Okay.
to swing at you. They were absolutely screwed by that late disruption. That jacked their movement hard.
I know.
So I mean, they're dashing as a bonus action, but it's not helping all that much. So that's the Ghost Folk. Glaz, your turn, sir.
Quick question.
Sir.
Shadow Pearl. What's the DC on that? Is it
15.
my DC or does it had its own DC?
It's DC 15.
It's the reason we gave it to you guys.
Who's
Who's going to be in the center
Is it
of
an
trouble?
action for me to toss it over my shoulder as I run away?
It is an action to activate the Shadow Pearl. Yes.
Oh. I'm voting they've got low wisdom and can be charmed. I activate the Shadow Pearl, and then I'm gonna run.
Okay.
Basically, I want to catch.
so-
I want to catch the chieftain. Yeah, I see the chieftain. I can totally like see this like cartoon thing of big Glass, kind of doing the run out. See, no, and throw the Shadow Pearl
So,
over
all
his
right.
shoulder.
So what this does is this lets you cast Compulsion. So creatures of your choice that you can see within range and that can hear you must make a Wisdom saving throw. It's a little different in that they have to be in the range.
Yeah, it
of
has
the
kind of a radius, I believe.
Yeah. So the target automatically succeeds on the saving throw if it can't be charmed. That doesn't help. Failed save target is affected by the spell. You can use a bonus action on each of your turns to designate a direction that is horizontal to you. Each affected target must use as much of its movement as possible to move in that direction on its next turn. It can take its action before it moves. After moving this way, you can make another Wisdom saving throw to try to end the effect. Okay, so you take this little black lustrous pearl in your hand, whisper a word to it, and it begins to pour this black darkness, like black dry ice smoke that just runs over your hand, and you chuck it. It goes clattering past into the midst of the ghost
the chieftain because who's scaring him.
The range is 30 feet, so you can catch all of them again.
Okay.
Because they all kind of bunched up like a JV soccer team. So you chuck the pearl in there, and this smoke rolls out through the room. And remember that within this radius of the pearl, it creates dim light. It reduces the light to dim. And so it becomes confusing. There's this swirling black, misty darkness everywhere, and you can use a bonus action to command them all to move.
So yeah, I command them all to move back into the late disruption.
Yep, I figured that's what was about to happen.
Wait,
that's
do you
amazing.
have the pearl?
Yeah, I just used
Mhm.
it. I just-
Yeah, because I give
And it's a bonus
everything
action, so I can still
magical to
dash.
Glass.
I straight up
Yeah.
said last week, like, we should
Yeah,
give it
give
to
it
the
to me.
person who's going to be in the
Alrighty.
most shit, and it's going to be Glass.
All right, so the chief.
Let's hope they're not wise.
I missed the box, but he failed. That's a 9. So he's going to move. His eyes sort of glaze over for the moment, and you can see that the wispy darkness sort of pools around his eyes and starts to draw his attention away. We've got a bunch of ghost folk in the mix there. All right, one passes. Fail.
Just passes.
Mage fails.
Nice.
All right. And I think there's one more ghost folk in range there, and he is actually going to fail.
Yep, it's 15 you were saying.
Good. All right. So a whole bunch of them, I believe they have to move on their turn. Keep in mind that if you are next to them, they can use their action before they have to move, but they do have to move. So you're going to drive them back into the late disruption, you magnificent bastard.
Them all go back into the late disruption.
Kane, your turn, sir.
Well, and then I'm gonna use my movement and my action to dash. So since it's a bonus action,
you used your action to activate the pearl. So
I think it was bonus action. When you were reading it, it said bonus.
Right, it's a bonus action on each of your turns to make people do what you want them to while they're
gotcha.
within.
I'm sorry, to activate it. So yeah, I'll still move 30 feet.
Right. Yep. So you are just about to the port. You're like just about to the portcullis now. So that's Kari. Your turn. You are way out ahead of all of your companions, lurking in the tunnel at this point, and you can see throngs of people fleeing from whatever the hell is happening in the Cartway's black market. They're running into the tunnel toward you.
I will continue to direct the people out and act like I'm helping without actually really doing anything.
Yeah, this way. It's the only way to go. This way.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to take any actions?
As far as I know, my friends are coming with me. I probably would have felt the heat or at least seen the blast of the fireball.
Oh, you have no doubt that there was a fireball. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And now you can see an ice storm also pounding two of the guard posts right now. You can see Glaz kind of breaking through the crowd almost to the gate. You cannot see anybody else at the moment. You can see the ghost folk chieftain barreling after Glaz with a weapon in each hand.
Oh, well, fuck that. I'm gonna shoot that guy.
And if you want, you can use your bonus action to mark him with a grudge with your grudges.
I absolutely want to do that, and he can be my mark target for. Where do I have the notes on that somewhere? It was 1d6 additional.
It's an additional d6 piercing damage if you hit. Yes.
Yeah. Once days 2d6 bonus action.
Oh, 2d6. There you go.
That's what it says here. So I'm just going off that. Okay, so I'm gonna go into my bow. I'm gonna grab that, and my short bow is right here. It's +3. I'm gonna fire at him with a 19, and here is the 1d6 damage first, and then the additional 2d6 that's coming after that gives me a total of. Hey, where's my dice? Come here. 2. Boom. Ooh, doing a total of 11 damage to him.
Ooh. All right, so you draw the bow out, and as you take a moment and you declare your grudge against him, that ghostly figure, when you draw the arrow, you can see kind of the plate-armored figure that's sort of superimposed over you, and you can hear the voice of that long-dead dwarf king growling in your ear, Kathuranok! And you can hear that growling scream echo with the arrow as it flies through the air, drives into the ghost folk's shoulder, and then forces itself in deeper after it's hit. And he howls in pain. You know, likey.
I give a kind of half smile, and I begin reaching for another arrow almost immediately.
Yep. Let's see. That scream is one of the most satisfying things you've ever heard. After marking him as your grudge. So that's Kari. The chieftain, at this point, has no choice but to run back into the goddamn latest.
Did I miss my turn?
You did. Well, I missed your turn is what happened there. So please, by all means, do things.
I was also going to shoot. I was also going to shoot that guy, because that guy is like... Glaz has pretty much single-handedly won this, or most of this fight for us. If this guy's like on him...
Hopefully, there's a lot of ghost folk, and you guys aren't out of it yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'd also shoot him, but I'd like to spend my bonus action to Hunter's Mark him.
Yep, you can absolutely do
grudge, Hunter's Mark, fucking everything on this guy. No one touches that glass.
If I might suggest it, this would be maybe a wonderful time to spend some 20s.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I'd like to spend that 20, please.
You guys have gotten on the damage curve pretty hard, pretty fast.
So
if you want to burn a 20 on that, you can crit his ass.
Spend a 20 to do 11 plus 4, so that's 15 damage.
15 and 2d6 Hunter's Mark.
Which is an additional 5, so
Total of 20?
20. And I will continue to try and get the fuck out of Dodge.
All right. So he staggers forward as you put a shot into his back, and he screams out in that guttural, growling language of his, which, again, you can somehow understand.
What does he say?
And he screams,
His head! Bring me his head!
I
think he means you.
All right, so that's the chieftain's turn. And as he's
he
doing
means
that, he doesn't have anybody in range, so he's going to have to move into the damn Lay Disruption. So that's another save at disadvantage. Okay, he fall down. So he runs into the Lay Disruption and immediately just kind of rolls and screams in just rage at this point as the ground kind of drops out from under him, quite literally, the stone warping and twisting like taffy. And he loses his footing and falls prone again.
This is one of those moments I really wish I had caltrops to just throw into that as well. Just be like, fuck you guys, doubly.
Yep. So he will stand up and basically be able to use his dash to get out of it, and that's it. That's it. He's still stuck in the Shadow Pearl's radius and can't get very far. Damn it. The mage. She is looking at the pile of ice that's now built up around the guards, satisfied for the moment.
I forget, was she compelled or not? Oh, she's still.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, she's totally compelled. She is still in it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So she stood up and she. Okay, man, this is a rock in my world, sir. Oh, there's another one. All right, so she kind of yelps as she is snapped by the waves ripping through the stone and knocked off her feet again. And I'm going to force her to make a concentration save at this point. That is not going to do it. All right, you can see the chains that at this point had pulled all of the Derricool on the dais together and kind of then relocked around them and started to squeeze them. The chains go slack. All right. However, they do not come off their wrists. They're still locked on.
Yeah. And you know, you talked to me, I was this close from not taking lay disruption, but you're like, no, it's a really cool, useful spell. You should grab it. Like whenever I talked to you about it, like months ago.
Yep. I think it may have saved your asses. Cloak, your turn, sir. Are you?
What's Redan doing?
You've kind of lost sight of. You've lost track of him. You're not really sure.
Okay, I'm gonna just assume that he was running then.
He's gonna wake up tomorrow, like in the aftermath of it, like still at the bar.
Where is everyone? Yeah.
Yeah, that one person that just passed out and had no idea what was going on. Yeah.
Good party.
Yeah. Just sees like stuff burning in the background.
Oh, I was muted the whole time trying to.
Oh yeah.
Right. Is there still one chasing me or two chasing me?
Oh my, yes.
Okay.
However, you can see that they're sort of like confusedly shaking their heads and kind of, clawing. They don't have claws, but like clawing at their eyes and their faces and starting to kind of lose track of where they're running. as this strange black misty darkness is swirling up around them and confounding their senses.
Which I have a good idea what that is. So I would. How far away are they from me currently?
Let's see. They're probably 15 feet back from you because they had to contend with that goddamn late disruption.
So if I move one action, that moves them 45 feet away, and they seem distracted and not moving. So I would move.
But you've seen what's happening. They're probably gonna run back into that damn lay disruption, and then they can try to get back out of it. But depending on how things go, they may run into trouble.
Okay. So I can't dash and drink the potion, right?
You cannot. It's an action to drink the potion.
Yeah. So I'm gonna dash the 50 feet. And hang on to the potion, right?
Okay.
Because I think I can get far enough away from them. Because if they were like gaining up right behind me, my strategy was going to be like, I'm tiny. I'm gonna find little cubby holes to like dip into and like drink this potion and try to evade these giant things that don't know where I'm at. And stealth my way out of the situation. But since Glass has saved the day, I am dashing towards the gate and making sure one is getting the fuck out in our party. I don't care about anyone else.
All right, so you can see that there are a fair chunk of this crowd, about a quarter of the crowd in the cartways, is making their way toward this gate as well. However, it's still thin enough that you can kind of dart between people. So you are about one more movement of your speed away from the gate itself at this point. So you'll be able to reach it on your next turn. Let's see. At this point, let's do... Kane, you hear Riodan's voice just sort of echo in your ears, although he's not next to you. You just kind of hear it. Come on, quit screwing around. And then you can feel some of your pain ease, and some of that burnt flesh begins to seal and kind of crisp and slough off with whole flesh underneath it. And you regain 5 hit points from a healing word.
Nice.
I am.
You can't see where he is in the crowd, but he's somewhere out there, and apparently he's at least got half an eye on what's going on in here. And then as an action, I think he is going to lash out with his Scourge of Blood. That'll be 1 hit, 2 hits. I think that's 3 hits. That is 3 hits. So you can see from in the midst of the crowd, you could see that Riodan kind of clumsily and shakily pulls himself up on one of the guard scaffolds, whips his scourge out, and the leather tails on it burst into these long, writhing tendrils of liquid blood, and one seizes one of the ghost folk by the throat, and then each of them grab its wrists and sort of wrench it backwards and sort of lift it off the ground. And you can see blood beginning to just pour out of the wounds that these blood barbs slash into its skin. Nice. So let's get some damage. All right, and it kind of convulses in the grip of these blood tentacles, and you can see its flesh begin to sink into its cheeks and around its muscles, and it goes limp and just hangs in the tentacles for a second until they uncoil and let this bloodless corpse fall to the ground.
Oh, they're really weak.
They hit like a
real hard,
train there.
Yeah.
They're glass cannons.
It's glass cannons, yeah.
They're a little bit glass cannony. Yes, indeed. All right.
Cannon.
Glass cannon.
The
All right,
glass
so
cannon.
ghost folk. I've got a couple of ghost folk who have to run back into the... So the guy whose buddy just got desiccated, he is looking somewhat confused and kind of staring at the body, stumbles back into the rippling floor and goes ass over tea kettle onto the ground again. He struggles to his feet and like kind of crawls and staggers his way toward the stalls and jumps up out of the lay disruption. Unfortunately, he can't get out of that damn Shadow Pearls radius. Let's see. We have a couple other ghost folk here. So one of them breaks through the crowd and is beelining for the gate. And he is going to move, dash as a bonus action, and then dash as his action to make it 90 feet. He comes barreling through the open portcullis into the tunnel, howling for Kari's blood. Two other ones are going to move up.
Wait.
They were stuck in the... what?
Did he run by me?
He did, yes.
Fucking guess what's gonna happen? Attack of opportunity?
Opportunity.
You may indeed take an opportunity attack on him.
As soon as he's like, he would just be like, Cloak would go for his fucking heels, man. Because he's probably about that height.
Oh god.
Gonna try and hamstring him.
I have this horrible, like, sickening, the Achilles tendon. Like, I heard my mate snap it once and just.
Oh no!
Does a 17 hit him?
You got him.
Boom. 12
Max
damage.
All right, so it looks like this
Nice.
guy had taken a knock or two from, because this is one of the ones that wasn't in the original, sort of the magical disruption that just wreaked havoc on the northern side. He was from the eastern side of the platform, and it looks like he had a few cuts and some pretty nasty looking bruises on him. So you indeed, as he runs by you, you just sort of lash out with your saber, slice him just below the calf, and he howls and sort of shifts his weight in an awkward way and topples backwards and almost does a backflip because of his forward momentum and sort of skids to the ground. And you just casually lay your saber across his throat, smile at him from behind the bear-toothed mask, and slit it.
He's really a ghost now.
Glaz, your turn.
Okay, so I'm trying to get a lay of the land. So Chieftain. So actually, this is where I need your help on understanding what I can do. So the people who failed compulsion, are still under it because I'm still concentrating. Is that correct, or is the pearl work a little differently? So
no, they're still they're still affected.
So anyone who anyone who
although I do have to make some saving throws for them. They might.
I was gonna say, you gotta see if they break it at the end of each of their turn.
Chieftain does not. The mage does not. Crap. That ghost folk doesn't because they have a +0 wisdom. That one does. All right, so we've got a couple of ghost folk who are now outside of the compulsion.
Okay. So, is the mage lady standing?
She's prone.
She's prone. Is the chieftain
no,
standing?
I'm sorry. She would have struggled to her feet. So she is on her feet, but in the lay disruption because she was deeper into it, and she hasn't been able to get out of it yet.
So I see Kari's ghost. The Kari shoot her bow with the ghost. So I know that it's like it's on. Because I, between my detect magic and also just Kari's general aura, seeing these arrows basically go flying over my shoulder. I sort of skid to a halt, guys, because it goes, well, that should stop them at least a little bit so we can try. And I turn around and I see that mage standing there. It's like, you are not very nice. You are not a very nice lady. I do not like you at all, and you are not one of my teachers. Bimian teachers are much nicer than that. I'm in a nat 20 level 2 chromatic orb her.
Oof!
Ooh,
all right.
I love that spell so fucking
what
much.
damage
And
type?
I am going to for just for Glaz, because he's tied into that fire, pulling the energy of the Everforge to channel this spell and to make it this nat 20. He just sort of reaches down to the ground and just with the lay disruption energy and since he's already tied into that, I'm not going to actually do the
You're not gonna chance?
geomancer
Okay.
roll because there's not a whole lot with this. If I'm already using a nat 20 to make it any better.
Sure.
So he just looks at her and goes, "You should learn to be more polite," and just unleashes chromatic orb at her, which I believe
So
as a nat
you
20
hold up
is 8.
you hold up
8d8?
your diamond, and it sort of hovers above your palm and begins spinning, and it spins faster and faster and catches fire from a spark within, and then you throw your hand forward, and this great swirling orb of fire lashes out through the crowd and strikes her dead center in the chest. I think chromatic orb is 3d8. Is that right?
I
Or
cast
was
it
it
level
4?
4.
Oh, you cast it level 2. Right. 29 damage. Holy.
That'd be 29 fire damage.
Yup. So she howls in agony, and you can see that her chest is now burnt down to the muscle, and you can see her pectorals just kind of quivering in mind-bending pain, and she falls to her knees, and her breathing is now ragged and heavy.
You are not the only person who knows how to play with fire, my dear.
So she is officially in real bad shape.
That's sassy
Oh,
Glaz.
Doug is just the
And Glaz
greatest,
will
I
continue
know.
Glaz will continue to back up because he still knows better, and these guys are very big and run very
Okay,
fast.
so just to give you guys sort of a check on where everybody is, there's a ghost folk way back toward kind of the far side of the ley disruption, next to the one that Riodan just exsanguinated. There is one kind of on the near end of the ley disruption. There's one in the tunnel with Kari, and there's one running up. No, sorry, 2 of them have been killed. So yeah, there's one running kind of toward Glaz.
Did
No,
that one
one's
make
dead.
it to
That
the
one's-
tunnel?
No, he was killed
No, that
by.
one-
He was killed by Cloak. There's only 3 up. All right.
Okay.
So there you go. Where are we at? That was Glaz. Now it's Kane. Kane, sir, your turn.
Hey. Yeah, I run. I run. Like,
Okay.
I, at this point, like, I'm gonna have to, action. Is the chieftain still up?
Chieftain
Yeah,
is
he went
still up.
back in. But he went back in, didn't he?
He was thrown back into the disruption. So he'll be slow, but he's able to get out of it because he's like just on the edge of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to double. I'm gonna have to use my action to dash,
Dash.
and I'm
All
just
right.
gonna try and get the fuck out of here as quick as I can.
All right, so you're probably one good move away from the portcullis. You're up just on Cloak's heels at this point. You've managed to basically traverse almost all of the black market toward the gate. Kari, your
Not
turn.
just standing on top of a ghost folk, just like
Yeah.
I'm going to reach back into my quiver, pull out another bow, and draw back the string and try to make sure that I'm not going to hit Glaz because he's doing stuff, and wait for my moment, and then release again. And I don't have any nat 20s, so I'm just gonna.
All right.
I do not think a 5 is going to hit, or an 8 is going to hit him, though.
An 8 is unfortunately not going to hit. No.
Oh, that wasn't what I was going to do. Fuck. Oh well. Next time.
No. All right.
was gonna
So
use a
he
guiding
manages
bolt.
to. So the arrow kind of catches him in the arm, in just sort of the outside of the meat there, and he smacks it with the haft of his axe, breaks it off, and then just sort of ignores the pain, and continues charging down the hallway at you.
This is gonna suck.
Chieftain. The Chieftain is going to drag his ass out of the out of the disruption. So he's got 5 more feet of actual movement left. He's going to dash for 15. He's going to dash again for 15. And he's still a good 15 feet behind Kane. God. The mage,
Oh no.
she screams out in her language toward the chieftain. Kane, you can understand it. She says, "We have to go now." And the chieftain looks at her with just fury on his face. but he looks back toward Kane, essentially. Kane and God, who else hit him? It was
Kane, Carrie.
Yeah, Kane, you critted him. Kari, I think you might have shot him. Yeah, Glaz, you did.
Kari grudged
Glaz,
him.
yeah, I went after the mage.
Yep. He throws a furious, just burning look toward Kane, who's barreling down the hall, and kind of and moves and kind of like breaks off and starts going back toward the mage. She painstakingly pulls herself up and away through the disruption and manages to just get to him since he couldn't get that far, reaches out with her hand, grabs his, and they both shimmer and vanish.
If I only catch a glimpse of this, does it look like the same way that guy vanished with the sickles?
The guy with the sickles didn't vanish. His boss, though, right? That what you're talking about? I would say it's similar, but not the same.
Okay, right.
So it's similar sort of magic. Remember that they're like in Midgard, that's about as big as teleportation magic gets. Is relatively short range, in the grand scheme of things. But I mean,
but for example, they could teleport into like an adjacent tunnel and
straight up.
And then if you want to go hunt them through the cartways, you're welcome.
No, fuck that. I want out. As
But
soon as I can.
they did, looks like, leave their
other guys behind.
Their tribesmen behind for the moment. So they have vanished. I'm going to go ahead and pull them off the initiative now, unless you guys have some super clever ways to try and follow them or anything. Cloak, your turn.
Cloak? Oh, you're muted.
Are you muted again there, sir?
I'm muted again. So I want to have a way to detect if they used a portal.
I can tell you right now. I mean, you have your portal sense. I'll tell you. Essentially, it was an instantaneous, short-lived portal that they went through. So it was essentially a dimension door spell.
Okay, and so where did it go?
You don't get to know that.
Oh.
Yeah. You suspect you might be able to, if you wanted to search, find the destination point. But then you'd have to go looking for it.
Yeah, I don't think it. So how many ghost folk are left? 2?
3. There are 2 in the main hall. 1 coming up sort of close to you at this point. Although actually he's gonna hit Kane first, and 1 in the tunnel, running after Kari.
All right. So one's behind Kane, and one's behind Kari,
and then 1 is kind of just way the hell back there.
Yeah. So I think what I'm gonna do, because the how far is the one in front of me going after Kari?
So you're about 25 feet away from the gate, and then he's probably another 30 feet away there. So 55 feet away from you.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they're fast if they're not being screwed up, because I mean, they're moving, they're dashing as a bonus action, and then a lot of them are dashing as their action as well.
Mm-hmm. And the other one, I think what he will do, because I think Kane can get away from the other one fairly quickly if he just keeps dashing. Cloak is going to dash 50 feet and be up right behind the one going after Kari with his blade ready, and you see like the blue lightning starting to form as he's like looking for the weaknesses in this creature, and that's where he's going to end his turn.
Yeah, you sort of concentrate on that little planar ripple that the ghost folk shaman mage used to escape her and the chieftain, and you draw on the sort of lingering shreds of that energy, and it gathers along the edge of your blade in that disrupting blue, just pure force. That was Cloak. The ghost folk. So one of them is still frickin' going back into the late disruption.
Impelled.
All right.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
No, it's good. It's good, man. All right, he blows it. Yeah. He goes into the late disruption and gets tumbled again. And so he makes very slow progress, dragging himself out of the ripples and then along the tunnel, along the Cartway's Black Market. One of them in the tunnel is actually going to close the distance to Kari and, howling for her blood, swing his axe at her face. Actually, he's got a Darakul Warhammer, not an axe.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's going to hit you.
Oh.
For 11 bludgeoning damage.
14 does not hit me.
It's I don't have the bonuses on there. That was a
Bonuses in
19.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's plus 5.
Damage, damage, +5.
And my bonus action, I can't use Shield of Faith as a thing because. Okay.
Well, that's you can do it on
so
your
how much
turn.
damage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
11 bludgeoning damage.
I go down to one knee.
Oof. All right, there's a bone crushing thump, and Kari drops to her knee under the onslaught of this fearsome thing.
I will let out a horrendous scream of agony as well, having not felt that much pain, I think, ever in my life.
It sort of bellows again in sort of reveling in your pain and sort of howling for your blood. You can just gather that from it. The other one that is not stuck in the disruption is going to make it up to Kane because he can move. This is the one that shook off the compulsion. So he can move, dash as a bonus action, and he just comes bounding through the crowd, shoving people out of the way with just this wide just burst of elbows and shoulders, steps up on the counter of a Cartway's little market stall, hurls himself through the air, and comes with a two-handed swing down towards you. You turn desperately as for a second it's like you can see what's happening behind you as you're running desperately to catch up with your friends. You can just feel him coming at your back, and you have this image in your mind, clear as day, this strange, almost like top-down view of the area around you, and you see him hurling through the air, and so you turn, and your blade lashes out without you even being able to see with your eyes, knowing exactly where to put it. You catch his longsword on yours, slide up and lock him with the crossguard, and shove him down to the ground beside you.
He turned on Witcher mode.
Yep.
There you go.
So that was the ghost folk. Glaz, your turn.
So Glaz saw the two of me. Goes, damn it, they got the way. Kari, they got the way. He turns around and sees this one that's just slammed into Kari. He goes,
right.
She was having a very good day today. You do not do that. And he's going to chromatic orb this one.
Okay.
I was having a great day.
I'm just going to roll.
A fantastic fucking day.
Yeah, I'm just going to roll it, and let's see if he gets it. 14?
That'll get him. Oh, yeah, that gets him.
Laz is really angry about this. So instead of spinning the diamond, he just sort of like crushes his hand. You actually probably see like the points of the diamond almost bring blood, and you can see this glowing red light of fire as one hand reaches down, and he once again channels this fire energy out of the ley line that he's attached to. Oh, I did some damage. I forgot to do it. It's no big deal. And then let's roll this up.
Did you want to channel the ley line?
I forgot to announce it before I did it. So
if you want to, go ahead.
Okay.
If you were intending to do it, go ahead.
Yep, and so it's a level 1 spell, so it's a 11 DC if I recall.
That'll do it. So you draw on that link deep in your soul, and you pull that pulsing energy from the ley line so far from you now.
And yeah, let me roll a D10, I believe is what I roll. Yes, a D10, which is this fun one right here. On a 4, if your spell affects multiple creatures, choose one. That creature's disadvantage. It doesn't affect multiple.
No, there's no saving throw on this one. Yeah. It's disadvantage on a saving throw, right? Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, it's just he takes
10 fire damage.
Yeah.
So he sort of bends backwards as the orb burns in between his shoulder blades, and you can see little bits of charred bone sticking out through the burnt meat of his rippling back muscles now. And he kind of turns back towards you, and you can see this like slavering, foaming drool pouring off of his jaw and tusks.
He looks back at me and Glaz. You see once some of the trollkin in Glaz because this person heard it, and Glaz does. He looks at me and goes, and you actually see him for once bare his tusks.
Nice.
Ooh,
Hey, your turn.
So this one that attacked Carrie is still...
He's still alive, yeah. Badly wounded, but still alive.
And he's between Glaz and the exit as well?
The one that attacked Kari is out in the tunnel beyond the gate.
Yeah, and Glaz is going to have to run past him potentially to...
And Cloak has his sword out and he's running up on him.
Yep, Cloak is closing on him.
Where's the other?
The other one is there's one on you. And remember, he just came bare. There's another one that's just way back at this point because he's still trying to drag himself out of the compulsion and the late disruption.
I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move.
If you don't disengage, he'll get an opportunity.
Let me just check how many.
Because there's a guy on you right now.
Yep, I'm gonna risk it.
Okay.
I'm gonna risk it for a biscuit.
I mean, I would. I mean, even if he hits you, no, I would, because like doing the math. I mean, even if he unless he crits,
I don't think 14 will do it. So you manage to parry his blow. That's kind of a clumsy backswing after he committed everything to that leap. He's a little off balance, and you manage to duck out of the way and zip off.
And I'm going to spend my last nat 20 to try and fell this fucker who's attacked Carrie and is in between Glaz and the exit. And then I'm just going to hope that I can fucking run. I will use my bonus action before I do to change my Hunter's Mark to him.
You cannot, because the current recipient of your Hunter's Mark is not at 0 hit points. He got away with your Hunter's Mark.
Is that how it worked?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You can only change it once you drop into 0. But little mixed blessing for the chieftain, since now you have advantage to track him if you want.
No, don't want to track bad man. Because how long does that last for?
An hour. So I will say that you guys, so you're far enough away that you basically get to the gate now, and the ghost folk and Kari are way down the tunnel, but you've had your bow in your other hand, so if you want, you can sheathe your sword and make your attack with your bow.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm going to do.
And so go ahead and roll me some damage.
I might genuinely just drop the Hunter's Mark and spend another spell slot because I need fucking guy to die.
You can absolutely do that. I will tell you that he is very clearly bloodied, so if you're spending a 20 on him, you probably don't need to burn the spell slot. I'll tell you, you can probably figure that out of the plans.
In which case, let's just shoot him and hope for decent rolls. That's 11 plus 15.
Yeah, okay, so that would have killed him if he was healthy. So you put the arrow straight between two of his vertebrae that are exposed by the searing ley-infused energy that Glaz just burnt into his back with, and he stiffens, drops to his knees, and he's desperately trying to raise his warhammer to crush Kari's skull, and his strength just fails him as his life bleeds out of his back and his chest, and he collapses. So, that was... Kari, your turn. She's gone. Cloak. Oh, there she is. All right, so you're getting ready to pull your blade and defend yourself when one of Kane's arrows bursts through the center of this ghost folk's chest, and it just sort of collapses to the side, dead.
Oh man, that is relieving. And am I muted? I'm not muted. Okay.
You're not
so I'm going to touch myself, and I'm going to cast Cure Wounds as ow, and that's going to go for 5 hit points, I believe.
Nice. Yep. So regain your hit points. Cloak, your turn.
So how far away is the other ghost folk from me now?
Within a move of you. Because he
Okay,
was on Kane, who was pretty close behind you.
And he's not damaged at all?
He is not. This one is pristine.
So Cloak like scowls at Kane a little bit, and he's like, "Worry about the other one!" And then he runs past Kane, and he's going to spend his crit, and he's literally flying up, and like stabbing this thing like in the chest area, like Adam's apple.
Right.
And that's what he's going for. So,
all right. So you're critting. Give me some damage.
Craziness.
5 plus 8,
Woo!
which is so 9. It'll be 17 plus the
17.
my spell ability, which is 19 damage in total.
Remember that any damage dice added also double on a crit. So that force damage that force damage also doubles.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
6. So that is 25 damage in total.
All right. So he's now recovered from that backswing that clumsily missed Kane, and you sort of run up, and your cloak lashes up, grabs hold of the pole holding up the awning of this stall, and sort of swings you up into the air. You plant both feet in his chest, drive your sword into his throat, and just stab, and ride him to the ground as he dies. And
That's true. That's true.
So you guys take a moment to kind of see through the crowd, and you can see that the final remaining ghost folk warrior, who was just way the hell back there, has managed to shake off the compulsion finally and has dragged himself out of the ley disruption. You can see just this faint flash of ghostly white flesh as he disappears down the tunnel on the far side of the black market.
Worst
we let the
guards
guards
ever.
take care of that.
What's that?
Glaz is saying to the rest of the party, I say we let the guards deal with that one. We did our share.
Oh, yeah.
Cloak is like, I think I got and like coughs up blood a little bit, and he's like, yeah.
And that is where we're going to stop for this week, and it will be interesting to see if you guys can track down what happened to Vandesi and Thrick in all of this chaos.
When a note, so that I don't forget, Glaz grabs the pearl back up.
Oh, so you're going to go back and retrieve it?
I want to retrieve.
Is it-
After what? How good that just worked for us? Hell yeah!
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Sounds good to me. All right, no problem.
We
can
went
do
from
that.
total party kill to fucking Glaz being MVP.
So there we go. That's our session for this evening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a blast.
Oh yeah. Glaz picks up the pearl, just like, and puts it back in his pocket.
Oh man, between the compulsion from the Shadow Pearl and the ley disruption, that was game changing in that fight, because that was very much quite a deadly fight. So you guys done good.
Strategery.
Yeah. So there we have it. I believe we have our host here. Yeah. And I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up sort of short form this time, since Will isn't feeling well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We all had a great time. I could see just a lot of excitement and enjoyment in the chat. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the Ghost Folk fight. And we hope to see you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Don't roll too many nat ones because we want to be laughing there. What do you do? Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, good. I think we're done.